Commission conference meeting this November 5th, 2020. The city of Fort Lauderdale is hosting its commission meetings in both a virtual and in-person format. The public will be able to listen to and view commission meetings at www.fortlauderdale.gov/FLTV, www.youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, as well as on Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99, or you can be here in person. To speak on an agenda item, you can either sign up with the clerk, and I will be given a notice of your interest in speaking, or you can click on the link that I'm about to tell you, and that too will give you the ability to sign up virtually to speak, and that is at B as in boy, bit.ly/virtual CC meetings. That's bit.ly/virtual CC meetings. Now, to help ensure the same decorum as our in-person meetings, we ask that you please abide by the following guidelines. 1, please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits. 2, while you're on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the meeting broadcast on FLTV, YouTube, Comcast, or AT&T, whichever one you're using, if you are watching simultaneously to avoid delays with the broadcast. I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak and also notify you when your time has expired. City staff has automatically added speakers to the listen-only mode, and you will be unmuted to speak when recognized. Once you have completed speaking, you will be muted and may either hang up to exit the meeting or stay connected to listen to the remainder of the meeting. Any questions? All right. So let us begin. Why don't we just start with the communications, because I know there are a couple of people here that from the community that asked to speak. So why don't we just go right to communications. We have one communication from the Education Advisory Board. This is with regard to our seeking our support for the use of 2020's SMART bond dollars for critical and essential facility renovations at Bennett Elementary School. And also to support and collaborate with city staff and the Education Advisory Board to assist in capturing residents' preference for long-term facility and program enhancements. Anyone have any questions? Anyone here from the Education Advisory Board? Anyone from the commission have any questions on this? Zoe, do you want to, do you have anything to add to this?
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor and City Commission. Zoe Saunders, Chief Education Officer, and also liaison to the Education Advisory Board. I believe we do have 2 Education Advisory Board members who have signed up to speak on this item. I can begin by sharing a bit of context.
Oh, wait, you're right. We do have 2 people who have signed up to speak. I just saw these over here.
Would you like to start with the Education Advisory Board?
Yes, Ruchel Coetzee and Tomislav Lukic. Is Ruchel there?
Mayor, just before they start, I'd just like to caution that if these are 2 members of the board, they're not supposed to be, this is a sunshine, it hasn't been noticed as a sunshine meeting for that board.
Uh-huh. Well, they're not in the same room, but only one can speak. They can both watch, but only one can speak.
I thought they can't discuss. If they both speak.
Well, they can speak, but if they're speaking on the same subject, then it's a back and forth, not necessarily back and forth, but if they're addressing the same issue, it's basically 2 members discussing potential business that'll come before the board at some point. So they really shouldn't be discussing.
But this is a noticed meeting.
Not for the Education Advisory Board.
So you're saying they're not allowed to speak?
One should speak for.
Okay, So, uh, so we'll start with Ruchel. Are you there? There, yeah, there you are. Hi. You're on mute though. Please unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Please unmute yourself. Okay, great. No, you just muted yourself again. Please unmute yourself. Okay, great.
Okay, thank
Now you
you,
can
and thank you, Dean, and congratulations on your reappointment. Thank you for yours and Steve's valuable input here. Okay, so as a member of the Education Advisory Board, I strongly ask the city to approve these bonds for dollar bonds for the Bennett School, because we don't have enough good schools in the neighborhood of east of Fort Lauderdale that are, and Bennett has been doing a marvelous job. They have been doing over and beyond a job of bringing the school up to a very good level. And anything they can have over and above what they're doing is very essential to making this a school that's important for the young families moving east of Fort Lauderdale that cannot afford to go to private schools.
All right, great. Thomas Love, I'm sorry I can't have you speak according to our city attorney, who. But thank you for being here. Thank you for both of you for your service on that committee. I'm very familiar with this issue. Do you have any comments you'd like to make, Commissioner Moritas?
I do. So today we're just hearing this for the first time. So eventually will come to us for a vote. And if we are voting on it, when we talk about bond money, would that be out of the $7 million allocation that Vice Mayor Glassman has for his district?
No, I really think they're talking about the school bond money.
Oh, it's school bond, not park bond. Okay, forgive me.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
well, obviously, yes.
So this is just to, they've come to us to rah-rah, support them.
Support the school board, get them moving, but
Moving
I
forward
still-
to rehabilitate the Bennett Elementary plant, the physical facility, as well as to enhance the programming aspect of what goes on in that school, to provide the kids that go to that school, which is a very, very diverse student population. I live right across the street from that school, and it's probably one of the most diverse student populations I've seen
sure.
in a while. So it'd be great if we can provide, really top-notch educational programming for the kids that go to that school. So I, for one, would definitely support it and appreciate all the work that you folks are doing. And Ms. Saunders, I appreciate your being a strong advocate in ensuring that Fort Lauderdale has yet another good elementary school in our community.
I
Mayor?
agree.
Yes, who is that? Commissioner? Oh,
Vice
Vice
Mayor.
Mayor. Glassman,
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. And thank
Congratulations, Mr. Glassman, on your success on Tuesday.
Thank you, Mayor, and right back at you. Thank you. I did want to thank Zoe and also Rochelle for being here, and Tomislav for joining us from San Francisco. That's really nice of you to make the trip. Thank you. But you got it. This Education Advisory Board is so full of passionate and invigorated people. I just love the work that's going on. I've joined them a few times. Great work coming out of there under the chairmanship of Dr. Alan Zeman. And yes, I'm fully in support of this. In fact, I want to see it go to even to the next level beyond just repairs. I've already spoken to our incoming Board of Education member and have told her how much I really would like to see a new building here. This building, this site is deserving of an actual new building. So that will be our next step. But we'll take it one step at a time. But I'm totally in favor of that. And I have told Sarah Leonardi that as much. I've also had that conversation with other school board members. But I just wanted to thank the Education Advisory Board for the good work. And I'm fully supportive of these communications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the commission have anything to say on this? All right, so Thank you so much, Zoe and Tomislav and Rochelle, and we appreciate your continuing your efforts in moving forward on this endeavor. Thank you. We have another communication from the Board of Adjustment. This has to do with have staff. They want us to have staff consider amendments to the fence code, taking into consideration new FEMA flood elevations and site screening, and to also include a clearer option regarding architectural features on top of fences. I think what they basically want to do is, from what I read in the minutes, first of all, there needs to be a correction in the minutes. There's constant referral to Mayor Glassman.
Wow. You know,
Mistake.
Mayor,
You wouldn't know from all the
That's a-
signs around the city.
Mayor, you're talking about, we're on the Board of Adjustment now, but actually those constant referrals were on the Education Advisory Board meeting minutes, not the Board of Adjustment.
Yes. So, to educate you. Anyway,
You know,
so
Mayor,
they-
you can't hold the people back, Mayor.
I know, I get it. I'm sorry. Kicking at my heels, are you? So currently the maximum allowed in the ULDR, according to the minutes, is 6 feet 6 inches, and from the lowest adjacent grade, whichever is less. And they want us to consider increasing the height. I guess there were certain homeowners that wanted to increase the height, and they added a decorative feature to the top, which brought it above the 6 foot 6 inch height. I guess, we can perhaps discuss that at some point. Does anyone have any comments on that? Do we want to direct staff to consider changing it? Is Anthony Fajardo on the line?
Battle
Yeah.
today for,
Is Al Battle?
yes, it's probably Al Battle today for Anthony.
Okay.
It is.
Al,
I'm on.
Mayor?
Good afternoon. I'm here, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Yes.
Great. So staff is as we were there at the meeting, and if so directed, we can study the issues that they brought up at the meeting. I think some of their comments are also related to the FEMA requirements that may raise finished floor elevations and make those fences even higher, or some maybe want to be considered to be lowered in some situations, but also to make sure that there's either clearer options for top architectural features, so that we don't create a situation where there's blank walls or walls that create issues between properties. So we can study it. Whether or not we need to bring other people in to help us, we're not sure at this point, but it is something we'll evaluate and bring back some answers once we get to that point.
And Al, if you're going to start to tinker with the fence law, I would like the staff to think about, and I've mentioned this before to Mr. Fajardo, people who put fences right up to the edge of their property line along the street, and they create a wall, and house after house that does that in certain neighborhoods. In fact, my neighborhood continues to see a proliferation of fencing that goes in front of the house. It creates a very unpleasant curb appeal when you're trying to, you can't see the houses anymore. It's just these fences, and a lot of the fences are not kept up, and I don't think that's what how we want Fort Lauderdale to look in our community. I think that fences are great for backyards, and especially where there's a pool, but to completely surround a house with a fence, like a stockade, I think we should rethink, how we allow fences in our community. And I just put that in your ear right now to consider it. Perhaps we'll go out to the communities, and I'd ask all the commissioners to maybe bring this up next time you have community events, and see what the rest of the community thinks. I know in my neighborhood, a number of people have expressed a concern about how these fences are being built as stockades around houses. And it's just not attractive, especially when they don't keep up the vegetation. that is supposed to be planted in front of these fences. And it just creates a very, inappropriate look. I just think it's unattractive, and others apparently do too. So anyway, anything else you'd like to add, Al?
No, sir. That's it. We'll add that to our considerations, your comments, and much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Mr.
Mayor,
Val?
thanks. I think it's a worthwhile conversation. So what would be the process in terms of steps for this, for considering to kind of improve the fencing code or look at it? And would that involve P&Z at some point?
I think
It would. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Al. Go ahead. You're on mute, Al. Al, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I muted after I got finished with you. My comments would have been or are that any changes to the code would involve approval by the Planning and Zoning Board as well as the commission. So as we would do with most zoning changes, we would also engage the community. So kind of that three-step normal process of community input, Planning and Zoning Board approval, and commission approval. We would not want to shortchange the process. Just for this particular item, we'd use the same process as we would for larger issues.
Okay, great. And Mayor, did I hear you right in terms of that's something we'd like to start, kind of starting with the public engagement a little bit?
Appreciate it, because you go through the neighborhoods and like if you went through Rio Vista, which is a very attractive neighborhood, and let's say people started putting up 6-7 foot fences in front of their houses, it just would be a very unattractive pattern of development that would I think takes away a lot of these neighborhoods have the appeal and the attractiveness of a Fort Lauderdale is the curb appeal that we see from the streets. And in my neighborhood in particular, it's they continue to sprout up. They're getting more creative, but there's still a wall. And so yes, Commissioner, if you could, in some of your meetings as going forward, and especially into the new year, it can become part of the conversation and see what people's, get some feedback from people.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
in my neighborhood, especially in my house, I mean, when you're trying to keep kids and dogs like on your property, sometimes you need fencing. I have seen creative examples of people putting, a fence in their front because the homes are set back at different degrees, so that like I don't have a backyard. Some people put pools in their front yard, and I'm probably not in favor of really taking that step to regulate properties. But I think we can discuss.
I'm not trying to regulate. I just think there's some. I mean, like if you have a small backyard, you want to use your front yard, and people who do have pools in the front, I fully understand that. But a lot of it is just I don't know, they just want privacy, and I get that. But it's becoming like a continuous wall, several houses in a row. And it's just, I don't know, if the community wants to keep it that way, hey, then that's fine. I just want it to be a subject of conversation. That's all. I know a lot of homes, they start the fence from the front of their house, and it goes and they block off the sides and into the backyard. But many homes are starting the fence from the street and enclosing the entire yard that way. So again, it's just a suggestion. If the community doesn't want it, then I fully understand it. But I thought we'd put it out there. Okay. So those are the communications. And so why don't we start with commission reports? Commissioner Moritas, welcome to the dais.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Feels like yesterday, but I think it's been how many months? No, March to November. Wow. Thank you, staff, for doing all of this. I do feel very safe and protected, and the technology is very helpful. So thank you. I know it was a lot of work, especially IT and everybody else who did this. Let's see. Well, yes, I did want to start off by congratulating our mayor and vice mayor, but at the same time, congratulate all 5 of us.
Yes.
The same commission will be serving you for another 4 years. And do we get to serve 12 years, Alan, or do we start over?
No.
You sure? Okay.
Well,
So maybe not 12.
That's an opinion.
That's an opinion. We're going to take them to court.
Deal with in 8 years.
No, I'm not going to fight you on that one. anyway, so I'm thankful I get to serve with all 5 of you. And I see some of you out there, like the Brady Bunch world. And Mayor, good to see you. Let's see. Yeah, I wanted to thank staff again for that football game. And thank you, Mayor, for coming out there. Our first game at Lockhart Stadium or Lockhart Park with the little stadium where the high school teams play football. It was a really great night. The weather was perfect. The kids were so excited and it was great. And we did a little commemorative coin for the coin toss. So thank you, staff, again for doing that and just making everything happen. It was really special. I'm glad I could get some excitement and a buzz out in District 1. And we have a few more games coming up also for Fort Lauderdale High School and Stranahan. So let's see. I do just want to update maybe Chris or Raj, because I do have neighbors now emailing me. We did say in 2020 we would kind of start implementing the digital water meters in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Do we have any update on that? I know we are kind of looking at it in conjunction with maybe possibly a P3 for the whole water treatment plant and everything else, but are we still waiting, or what should we tell our neighbors?
Yeah, so the thing that we can tell our neighbors at this point is that we had a bit of an issue early on with who was actually doing the solicitation process. We've reviewed it, and I think the city attorney, at least through staff and others, have decided or made the conclusion that it probably does not qualify as a public purpose project for the purpose of an unsolicited type proposal. And as such, we will be going back to the competitive market ourselves, as opposed to having anybody do it for us, so that we can add that bit of competition into it and frankly not pay sales tax when we buy the meters themselves. So Raj can probably do a better job with timing than I can. I can do a decent job with concept, but let's see if I can go to Raj and he can tell us when we might be on, when we might be doing that. I don't know that I see him on.
Behind you.
He's behind me. I forget that there's actually.
I'm sorry you're not sitting here, but hey, Raj, good to see you.
Great.
I can.
How quick we forget that there's actually people in the room.
People. No, people.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner, Vice Mayor. Sorry, wrong sequence. Yeah, we actually met, we had a Zoom meeting on Friday regarding this subject. And as the city manager rightfully said.
You know what? I can barely hear you. Can you like come up a little closer to the microphone?
Okay. Test.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, let's talk well. Okay, Commissioner Moritas, yeah, we, as I was saying, that we had a Zoom meeting last Friday, and we went over, and the city manager rightfully said that the P3 option that we had been exploring until now was not applicable in this case. So we would be going out for bids, and I believe I might have sent some update to your staff, and I'm not too sure if they shared that with you, but we have done some. We are experimenting with the different types of models, and obviously Imperial Point is going to be our starting point in terms of making sure that what we need is what's going to work. The reason for us taking a little bit longer is that we have many different types of models and different varieties. What is going to fit into our whole scheme of things is taking a little bit time, but I'm not expecting anything substantive to happen, or at least we can start the experiment, which in fact, we have started the experiment. But as far as the entire process, I don't think that we would be making any appreciable, I would say, action until about 1 year time. So that would be the minimum that I'm looking at. It will all depend what type of model we choose, how effective it is going to be, how quickly we can install. But I don't believe that on a larger scale that we would be doing anything until at least for 1 year. Okay, thanks.
When? Until
A
when?
year, 1 year.
Yeah, at least 1 year, yes.
When you say an experiment, you're experimenting in District 1, is that the entire neighborhood? Is it a section of the neighborhood, a street?
A section, we are going to be choosing certain things. It's not going to be the entire.
Okay,
house. Yeah.
great.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Mayor. I'm done. Yes, thank you.
All done?
All done.
Great.
I'll pass the baton.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon, everybody. And again, Mayor, congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you.
Okay, it has been a busy couple of weeks since our last meeting. Always pleased to be with the Neighborhood Leadership Academy, which I did on the 21st of October. That night was also the Flagler Village Civic Association and the Poinsettia Heights Civic Association. On Thursday, the 22nd, there was a planning meeting for Sanctuary Church's 5th annual grocery and turkey giveaway. That's going to be a drive-through event this year. Mayor, remember we did that last year. That night on October 22nd, the Central Beach Alliance also met virtually. I met with the District 2 portion of Las Olas for the Las Olas mobility issues that they wanted to bring to our attention, both Corradino and myself. We are actually bringing the entire mobility working group back together again tomorrow afternoon with Commissioner Sorensen as well. Tuesday, October 20th, Civic Association meeting. On the 28th, we attended the boat show opening, joined by the mayor and folks opening the show. That was a great opening ceremony for the boat show. That afternoon, also attended Lineo's Lake Ridge groundbreaking event in the afternoon, again with Mayor Trentalis for 8 townhomes and a long vacant lot in Lake Ridge. That's going to be a beautiful project. Thursday, October 29th, we had a meeting of the District 2 Neighborhood Presidents Roundtable, very informative. I wanted to thank Chris and Greg for joining us. That was the first time that most of the folks in our district had a chance to meet Greg, so that was terrific. That afternoon, I attended the Broward County Annual Cultural Forum, which is always very interesting, how the arts and culture are impacting our county. That's been a very hard-hit sector during COVID-19. October 30th was the Broward County Segment 2 and Sand Bypass informational webinar. And I wanted to ask Chris if we're all good with that, if we've done everything we had to do, or you're comfortable with what's going to be happening within our city borders on that project. Have you had a chance to delve into that? But you feel that we've covered all our bases and the stretch of it that will impact the city, we're ready for that? Is that, we're good with that, Chris?
I believe we are. Let me make a confirmation and I'll get back to you, but I believe the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. On the 31st, congratulations to Victoria Park. You know, every year they have a wonderful Halloween party. Obviously, they couldn't have that block party this year, so they did it in the form of a parade of cars. And folks just stood outside their house and kids were all dressed up, and congratulations to them for that. On the International Boat Show, I'm sure we'll be getting reports on that. Tuesday, November 3rd, we had a little something called Election Day that kept some of us a little busy. That was a good day. Wednesday, November 4th, day after that was yesterday, Victoria Park had their Civic Association meeting. Coming up, as I mentioned, I'll be joining Commissioner Sorensen tomorrow afternoon at 2:30 for the Las Olas Mobility Working Group presentation with Corradino. Saturday evening is Equality Florida's virtual gala. Typically, that's always in a hotel. It's typically been on the beach, actually, but that will be a virtual gala at 7 o'clock. I'll be attending the International Swimming Hall of Fame board meeting on Tuesday the 10th, Sailboat Bend Civic Association on the 11th. And we have on Sunday, November 15th, the Exotics on Las Olas coming up. And just a few comments that I just wanted to share. Chris, at the Parks, Recreation and Beaches Advisory Board recently, there was a discussion of the projects, and it was mentioned of a timeline of 4 to 5 years to complete the projects. Is that really true? And can we not maybe look at doing that a little bit quicker than 4 to 5 years? What do you think?
So I was not at that meeting. I don't necessarily have the context of it. Let's go to Phil and see if he's behind me too.
Yeah, a lot of people here.
Before I start looking for names. Let's let Phil add some context to that. I'll be right back.
Good afternoon. I listened into the meeting. I was actually on the call, and I did not hear that come up either. But we can talk to the program manager, but understanding everything needs to be done as far as outreach, design, bid, construction, and program manage. $200 million. I think it's going to take, I think 4 to 5 years is aggressive. I mean, if you look at how long it takes to build a project and how big this one's going to be, their AECOM is big enough that they've got 2 or 3 different groups working simultaneously. So I really don't see, Vice Mayor, how we can speed this process up.
Well, when I don't mean everything totally completed, but at least everything in the pipeline, ready to go, and knowing that we're going to be doing exactly what it is we're doing. Is that a possibility in less than 4 to 5 years?
Oh, yes, we'll know what we're going to do a year at the max, and then they're going to phase those in. So if you look at the timeline, there's 4 phases to get all the work done. So you'll have about probably $40 million to $50 million going on in each phase. So you'll have, it'll be done in 4 to 5 years, but you'll have projects that'll be done in a year to 2, with the last one ending in 4 to 5 years.
Okay, good. I just hope that we stick to that. I mean, I guess I just have this fear of always thinking about the school board's bond and all the projects that were part of that bond. And I mean, that's still going on after, I don't know how many years. And I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to that so that this doesn't drag on forever. So thank you for that, Phil. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I can't add, Mayor, I do meet with them every 2 weeks, and that's on our agenda every 2 weeks to look at the timeline and where they're at, and we talk about that. So we're tracking it very closely.
Okay, great. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I know we're going to have an agenda item later this evening about the air show, Chris, but I had a hard time. It was very blurry, the backup on the iPad and those diagrams. It was very tough to follow. So hopefully I will definitely pull that item so we can have that discussion. I just know that several of the neighborhoods along the beach really want to have specific information about how that air show is going to play out, what we're going to do about crowds of people on the sand, all of the logistics involved. And I think we have to do some sort of informational communication with all of the neighborhoods, especially that are in and around the site. But it was difficult for me to read that when I looked at those exhibits, and maybe we can take a look at that later. Also, I just wanted to find out how we're doing with recovering the street to what it needs to be. We had that water main break near the La Club condo and Bonnet House. Are we on track with that, Chris, in terms of making sure that that street is brought back to the way it looked before?
I know they were in the restoration process. Let me go back to Raj here. Update on repaving. And while he's approaching the microphone, we will have that discussion tonight. We had it at length this morning about the air show. Their promoters will be with us tonight in the virtual meeting to be able to explain it to you directly.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, yes, we have sent our staff to evaluate, and whatever restoration work needs to be done, we'll do it.
Okay, excellent. Do we have any timeline on that, Raj, in terms of getting that street back to the way it was before the break?
Mr. Vice Mayor, I don't believe I can give you a timeline because there are other streets that are being done. They are on the priority, but we will try to reprioritize as best as we can. But it is on our list to do, and we will try to restore it as quickly as we can.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Chris, yes, I'm sorry.
Raj, that issue is, is something that comes up in a lot of the different neighborhoods where we're doing infrastructure rebuilding. People, the project is finished, and then it's just sort of left there. The roads are bumpy, and the remediation and the restoration just seems to languish. How should we respond to neighbors when they inquire about those conditions?
Mr. Mayor, every street where things are dug up and undergrounding work is done or any type of work is done, once we reach a point where we believe that no additional work is going to be done, we are going to come and repave the entire street. So it should look new road once we reach that point. So if there are some areas that are bumpy, that means that some work is still left out to be done. But if there is any specific section or a road that people believe that there has been no activity, we can go and check and move it up in our priority list.
Okay. I mean, I'm hearing it in along Bayview Drive and Rio Vista and Victoria Park and, it's everywhere.
Yeah, actually, the works is not finished yet, and that's the problem. We don't want to go there twice. So I would request the residents to just please bear with us, because we don't want to be in a situation that, oops, we left something and we have to come and tear up again.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're on mute, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Chris, can you just discuss briefly where we are exactly with the Las Olas garage in terms of the screening, the mesh and the lights? I get a lot of feedback from folks, and I've gone by several times in terms of that screening with the rust, and then the lights just never seem to be 100% in terms of all being on and functioning. And sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Sometimes this is on, sometimes that's not on. What are your thoughts on that?
So Vice Mayor, we've officially rejected the mesh on the parking structure because of the rust issue. And so we're waiting on the contractor to respond to our official rejection of that part of the project. With respect to the lighting, I share your concern. I share your concern even to the level of questioning whether or not we should leave it there or explore a different opportunity for some type of a wrap of that parking deck. As you know, each one of those ribs has individual lights in it. And, even if you're 97% functioning, that 3% is still obvious. And so as those lights come on, they do come on individually by rib. And I'm not sure it was the best design when it was originally conceived, but it's what we're dealt at this point. We've got as many repair parts on hand as we can store in an effort to keep the lights lit, as many of them as we can. If we move into the future and realize that we've got an issue that is not able to be remedied, then I'll have to bring a different recommendation for us moving forward to the commission at that time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, those are both definitely issues.
Wait. What does that mean? We spent millions for that wrap, and you're saying that, well, if we decide they don't work, we're going to rip it down and pay for another wrap?
Well, what I'm learning at this point is that the lighting technology that's on that parking deck is really a generation of lighting ago that does not exist today. If we were going to put that type of a lighting package on a parking structure, there would be different technology that would be used today.
But so, this was just put on a year ago.
I recognize that. I know. And that's one of my concerns, is that we will have a lighting system that, we could largely keep lit, but to have all of those lights lit every time it turns on, I have concerns with that.
Well, I mean, were we cheated on the representation that this would be a functioning lighting system, and now we're being told that it can never really be 100%, and therefore, it was also supposed to be sort of artistic, and it was a functional art piece. And now you're saying that we may have to rip the whole thing off and start all over.
No, I'm not necessarily saying that, but I am saying that I think we are going to, each of those is an individual item. And what we're learning is as cars go up and down the parking deck and there's vibrations that sometimes we end up with loose connections that cause a rib not to light up the next time the lights come on. So it's not the lights that are burned out, but it's that something happened in the structure that caused the connection to fail. The closest one, before I get too far over my knowledge level with the deck, let me go. Well, he's probably in the room too. Is Ben Rogers here? I need to look before I look for names. He's here. Let's let him come and give an update on that deck, since parking is the one that really deals with it on a day-to-day basis.
Good afternoon, Ben Rogers, Transportation Mobility. So the lights right now are in the off position. The CRA is still working with the manufacturer under a warranty period to come back with electricians, and they're rewiring. As the city manager said, there's a lot of connections and drivers and parts behind the scenes that are are failing. So right now, and for the past probably 2 months, they've been off majority of the time while they are doing all the replacement work. And we're hopeful to get it up for the boat show. But unfortunately, a couple of the drivers and parts failed. And so we had those parts reordered. And they should be in the next week or two back to a point where we can turn it back on. As the manager said, we are 97, 98% operational. It is that 1 or 2% that has a big strand right in the middle, or a group of them, that is making the major impact at this point.
So what is the prognosis for this device?
It's a good question. As the manager said, we're working right now on our position with Skanska and EDSA, the developer of the garage, and really trying to figure out what our next steps are. For the mesh, as the manager said, we are putting together a letter right now that rejects all the work and enter into the next steps. I have to defer to the city attorney on what the next steps on that would be, but we are in the process of that right now.
Well, you would think if this were an older generation product that they would have worked out all the kinks after years of being in use in various locations. And now what you're suggesting is that the technology never really worked to begin with. I mean, that's really a fraud on their part, perpetrated on the city. That, okay, so you're pursuing this through our warranty.
Absolutely.
Rights.
Yeah, we're not going to accept anything that doesn't, we haven't accepted the work at this point, and we won't accept it until it's right, if it ever is right.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Rogers? Okay, thank you, Ben. Please continue, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, it's definitely not right, and I'm glad we're moving in that direction, because we definitely have to make it right. So I appreciate that. Virtual meetings. I've had several folks tell me, appointees on different committees and boards, that they really want to make sure that they're able to continue to meet virtually. They're saying that they're getting greater attendance and more input. And what's our plan with that, Chris, in terms of boards and committees? Are they going to be able to have that ability to continue to meet virtually?
Alan will respond to that.
I'm sorry, I was responding to an email. Could you pose the question again?
He wants to know what the future is of virtual meetings for boards and committees.
Well, currently, as you're aware, we passed a declaration to take care of sort of the gap period that we had between now and between then and today, since the governor didn't extend the waiver of the in-person quorum. Many cities, including us, have taken a step, and we believe we have the authority to waive that requirement ourselves. Without getting into too much detail, there's really not an express Florida statute that says you have to have an in-person or physical quorum. It's just the one statute that does refer to it, which pertains to resolutions and ordinances, speaks of the presence of a quorum. But as the Attorney General has opined, that there's really no express requirement it'd be physical, although that's been interpreted that way for decades. But under the pandemic situation, obviously, or a state of emergency, we have very broad powers under Chapter 252, as well as our own ordinances, to protect the health and safety of our citizens and our employees. So the various cities, ourselves, Coral Springs, Pompano Beach, Wilton Manors, Dania Beach, there's a variety of others, have taken the same steps we have. So we, for the time being, indefinitely, while we do have a state of emergency, we'll be able to meet virtually, both the boards and those citizens attending. We haven't, this is a matter of first impression in Florida. We've never had to deal with this before. So to the extent the governor or anyone else pushes back, there's no way to know. But as long as we have a COVID emergency, I think the cities I've named and ourselves will proceed prudently as we think best, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. And Alan, you might not have heard, but I mentioned that I've heard from appointees of mine on boards and committees. They actually like that ability to meet virtually. They find it encouraging, easier for folks to attend. They've said their attendance has gone up. They feel safer. So I know that they are hoping that they're able to still have that ability to do that. Thank you. Chris, are we doing any exploring? I know I've mentioned this before, and I've actually had some discussions with developers along the corridor there on Las Olas but it is an ever increasing concern by many people there in terms of the EMS response times and looking to do some sort of EMS substation along the Las Olas corridor. Is that something that's on your radar as well?
Yeah, something that's on my radar. There's been a couple of projects that are proposed in that area that we obviously would look towards opportunities for partnership, et cetera. So it is on my radar. The thing it doesn't have at this point is any funding associated with it. So on the radar without funding is probably a project that would have to be identified for future funding. So answer to your question is yes. It would be great if we could find a partnership through there somewhere, as there's just not a lot of undeveloped land, if any. But more updates on that as we learn more.
Okay, thank you. And I have been talking to folks that are maybe planning on doing things along the corridor, or there's always that hospital site, and I just want to keep it out there as a topic of discussion. So I appreciate that, because those response times are really very unacceptable along that corridor for the folks that live there. So thank you for that. Lastly, I know that we're expecting a lot of rain in the next few days. My concern is that our ground is very saturated now from the end of the rainy season. So are we going to be making sure that the residents are prepared, or are we going to be getting some information out just so that folks know what's coming, to check for any kind of blocked storm drains? Are we doing anything proactively with respect to this, so that people are just prepared? If they see something that needs cleaning, they let us know. But are we planning on doing anything? Because I don't know, but the latest of what I saw looks like we might be getting quite a bit of rain.
Is that because of that storm Eta?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, I looked at the prediction for rainfall last night, actually, as we started planning for the arrival of that storm. As of last night, the forecast from Thursday through Monday, so today through Monday, was in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 inches of rain, probably more leaning towards Sunday and Monday.
8 to 10 inches?
Over the course of 4
Yes.
days.
Still a lot.
It is. And so, one of the things that we'll be putting in place and starting to message this afternoon is a day-long day tomorrow of working with neighbors who may benefit from sandbags to either bring those into the community in places that we know flood, or to work with people that live in Fort Lauderdale to help put some sandbags together. We do that at Mills Pond Park. We're going to do that all day tomorrow. If that is a precursor to a lot of rain, that would be something that people could avail themselves to. We will have in the community every vacuum truck, every Vector truck that we have, and every one that we can get our hands on as a rental as we go into the weekend with the anticipated rain. So we're executing a plan, and there's only so much water that our ground can hold, and when it doesn't hold it anymore, that's when we end up with the flooding. So we pump it down as fast as we can. Sometimes we can't keep ahead of it just because it falls too fast from the sky. But we are going into the weekend with an assembled plan of equipment and sandbags to hopefully alleviate flooding from the rain where we can.
Okay, and we will be getting communication out to the city so that folks know what to expect and what they can do to assist, especially with regards to the storm drains that they might be witnessing that might be clogged.
Yes.
Okay, as long as they know it's coming, I really think we need to be prepared for that. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, if I could jump in, I agree with you, and just want to add in, Chris, in that communication to the neighbors and residents of the city, if we can include who and how should they call or contact if they're having flooding or issues on their property?
It is always safe, and I'll say it for those watching, and the number that we always push is 954-828-8000. It's our 24-hour customer service line that is answered by a person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 828-8000.
Yep, great, thank you. And then I think also just reinforcing the when to call 911, and what experiences, or should they call the police non-emergency number as well? What warrants either of those?
Those are for true emergencies. And so medical emergency or law enforcement emergency would be 911. If somebody is stuck in their house and needs to get out of the house, It might be a high water rescue vehicle that shows up, or a high water police vehicle that shows up, but those are not technically emergencies. And then I would ask 954-828-8000 be the number that's used. They know how to get in contact with those people that can come render assistance.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm good, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Commissioner McKenzie.
No report.
Okay. Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioner McKenzie, Commissioner Moritas, on your re-election. It's
Yours as well.
Thank you. I'm proud to be working together again. I think that it shows that we're having success, and I think moving the city forward together. I think also I'm just proud of the engagement we have with neighbors and community members and businesses. I think this has been a good time in the city of Fort Lauderdale with us all working together, and I think continues to be. So I'm just very, very proud and happy of that. And I'm also, Mayor, I'm proud of just how the election as a whole went in the city of Fort Lauderdale, from presidential all the way down, just in terms of lines were manageable, people were behaving well, all of our the poll workers and city staff and law enforcement, and I'm just proud of kind of how that all went as a community. So I'm just grateful for all the work that went into making that possible, Mayor. And I guess a couple things I wanted to touch on. I'm just going to get right into some of the topics for discussion. Mayor, I know you had been on a call with Points of America and the gate, so I wanted to kind of bring that up for discussion today. Mayor, whenever you'd like to kind of have that discussion, just to share with the commission and move things forward.
Well, why don't you bring it up now?
Okay, sure. So you were on the call. I wasn't able to be on that call with the neighbors, but it's dealing with the locking of a gate to access. And Mayor, we might even have some folks on the line right now. I don't know if anyone signed or has kind of would like to talk about this, but Chris, Alan, I'll kind of leave it to you to kind of share where we are and what we need to kind of think about.
All right, so let me tell you what I learned in that meeting and my subsequent discussions with Mr. Boileau. So there's a certain access point near the Points of America Peninsula, and the neighbors in that area are just beside themselves with a lot of kids that show up there late at night, leaving garbage all over the place and creating a lot of noise and ruckus, according to them. And so that concerned me, and I was glad to be able to participate in their meeting to hear firsthand what the folks had been experiencing and witnessing themselves. Of course, it's a public access, and so there was some dispute. I want to say not dispute, but difference of understanding as to who actually owns the land and the pathway that we're talking about here. So I spoke with Mr. Boileau, and right now it's my understanding that we're doing a title search to verify who not only owns the underlying land, but whether or not the city has any easements over the land if it doesn't already own it, to determine who gets to decide whether or not we should put a gate there, or what the who should regulate the activity that goes on there, and what we should do going forward, regardless of who owns it or who has the ability to regulate the use of that area. So, Alan, is there anything else you want to add to what I just said?
No, that's that's accurate. We're doing the title search now. We are aware of the plat from 1969 that creates the easement that we believe, that the city has, and to the extent there's any changes, would have to either be vacated or modified in another way. But until, we have the full picture from the title search and the title report and all that, we'll hold off on that. But I mean, as what we have right now, we think we know who has rights, but we want to confirm that before we move on and solidify any sort of solutions.
Okay, so I'll let you take the ball from there, Commissioner. And but obviously, I'm totally sympathetic to what those folks are having to deal with, and you know, you have my support in whatever decision you decide to make, because I do think that it needs to be regulated. It's not fair that that, you know, there's garbage left there, and that, you know, they're out there to all hours of the night being disruptive, and certainly, you know, the beach is for everybody, but we also have to respect the rights of others to be able to enjoy the beach as much as they seem to. So why don't you keep us informed, if you could, as this issue moves forward. Alrighty?
Great. Yeah. Thanks for your help on that, Mayor. I will. And then, yeah, Alan and I'll keep working on it, and we'll be working with, we got a great group of neighbors there that are engaged on it. So excellent. We'll keep working on that. Another topic, Mayor, just wanted to hear from Chris on this one is just, Chris, if you could give just the public just an update on the police station progress and kind of building where we are in that stage, and then also police station, the police chief search, whatever you can kind of share with us so folks know where that's heading.
Yeah, so I'll take them in the order that you asked and talk about the police station first. Obviously, we've retained the services of AECom. The commission entertained an action that caused us to negotiate with a landowner adjacent to our parcel on Broward Boulevard. And so we're working on negotiating for the acquisition of a small piece of land that will cause us to build a building that incorporates that land area into it. My guess is that we will start to see, you know, design and renderings over the next 60 to 90 days, and then probably work towards where we start to see shovels in the ground spring of 2021. So it's full speed ahead. They work on it every day, and you know, we've got to do some relocating of some other work functions that are out there. There's a fleet operation, a parks operation, fire storage operation, and a sanitation operation on that same site. Some of those uses need to be repositioned in other places in the city so that we can build the new police building while keeping the current police building functioning, so that we don't have to move the police operation more than one time. So that's an update on the police building itself. And with respect to the police chief search, it's ongoing. As you know, we used a recruiting firm. We were shooting for interviews to occur on November the 9th. That would have been Monday. More than 50% of the candidates were not available on that Monday. So we're looking at a different day. I've proposed either Wednesday of next week, recognizing it's Veterans Day, if people are willing to do it. I certainly am. Proposed next Wednesday or even next Saturday. If that doesn't work, then we'll be looking at the following week of the 16th. So interviews coming soon. We don't have it whittled down to a top 5 or a top 6 or a top 10 at this point. But we have the first set of interviews of those who have been determined to be most competitive, either through our review or the review of the professional recruiter and recruiting firm that we have employed. So I should have an update for you by the next commission meeting that's more detailed than that, but that's where we are with that process.
Great, thanks, Chris. And then if you can, again, just for the benefit of the public to kind of understand this process, who's kind of involved in the interviews, who makes the decision, and what role, if any, does the city commission have in this process? If you could just share that.
Yeah, so by our charter, as your city manager, I have responsibility for the staff of the city. And the person who is hired as the police chief will report to me. So ultimately, I have to make that decision. I will certainly, as I would with any other, you know, fairly influential, high-ranking, out there publicly department head position. You know, I will certainly engage the commissioners as I narrow the group down to top candidates and make sure that we are employing somebody that is a good fit for our organization and for our city. But ultimately, you know, I will assemble people for an interview panel so that there's different opinions, different perspectives, different viewpoints, different diversity, et cetera, on an interview panel. But ultimately, I have to make a decision and then bring that information to the commission.
Thanks, Chris. That's helpful. And that when you mention an interview panel, is that city employees? Is that community stakeholders? A combination? You're still thinking about it? What is that? Any feedback on that?
So I'm going to start doing virtual interviews in this COVID world, and that will just be of city staff members, likely me and the 2 assistant city managers. That's really intended to get the pool narrowed to where we actually want to start spending money and invest money to bring people to Fort Lauderdale. So this first set that I've talked about will likely be staff members, and then I'll work with the recruiting firm on what they've seen to be best practice in other places that they've done this type of a placement to see if we, when we do an actual in-person interview, what the composition of that is. But this first round is just virtual, intended to figure out who we actually want to bring to Fort Lauderdale.
Great, thanks, Chris. I just think that's good info for the public to understand. Next question, Mayor, and this is probably to Chris. Separate topic. A neighbor asked me in the past, years before I think I was on the commission. This neighbor's asking did the city commission create a $2 or $4 million reserve fund for future EMS substation north of the river? Was anything like that ever created, or is a question, Chris?
So we had money in the budget for an EMS substation, and then it came out, and then it went back in. But I don't know that there's ever been discussion for anything north of the river. The EMS substation that we've consistently talked about that had the money in, money out, money back in was always intended to be south of the tunnel, as close to Federal Highway as we could get. It was the siting of the station process that I remember.
Great, thanks, Chris. Next question, again to Chris.
So let me just see. Wait. So is it in now?
Yeah, we have acquired land, and we've closed on that. So we've used some of the money that was in. Now we need to identify money for construction, which we will do in our capital budget. But the dollars that were in the budget were there for the purposes of land acquisition, and it has been used because we've acquired land.
All right, so we're halfway there, Commissioner.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that, of the EMS substation south of the river. I was asking about north of the river. So, but Chris answered.
We had looked at some sites north of the river, but if we had sited it north of the river, we would not have sited it south of the river too. So, the process of looking as far north as Holiday Park and as far south as 17th Street and Federal Highway was really that expansive area, and it landed just south of the tunnel, just west of US 1.
So there are no current plans, or we have not identified any property north of the river then?
That is correct.
There's no budget for that separate than the budget that we've already allocated the money for the purchase of the land south of the river.
Mayor, you're correct.
Right, exactly. And just to be clear, when I talk about north of the river, the idea is what Vice Mayor Glassman said, which is something that would serve Las Olas Isles and so forth. So that was the question, is basically, have we allocated any funds for that? Someone thought we had years ago. So got the answer. So we're good there. Next question, just kind of, and I'm going to be, bringing this up regularly, is just when we think about 5-ash and opportunities and funding sources, Chris, if you can just remind us of kind of what we're contemplating?
Yeah, so ultimately it'll be decided by how we move forward with the construction of that facility. So if we play it out and say that we don't engage any other either solicited or unsolicited private partner, and we did it ourselves, the revenue modeling that we've done for the utility would suggest that we have about one more year of a rate structure that is consistent with where it is today. And then to be ready to build a water plant in 2025, that it would require 3 consecutive years of about a 9% increase in the water utility rates. It models also that you could do a one-time 30% adjustment, and that would be sufficient to be able to issue $450 million worth of debt, which is the number that the Corolla report gave us. So that's the most accurate number we have at this point based upon a study that we have done. I can tell you I've met with, and I'm sure you have as well, met with along the way different water plant operators who would suggest that they think that that $450 million number may be somewhat inflated based upon what it actually would cost to build a water plant. And so I hope it is a conservative number, because we certainly don't want to be estimating with a number that's too small. But I also don't want to be estimating with a number that overshoots by too much either. If we chose to engage with a private partner, we could do that in a couple of different ways. One, they could land in our lap, and we decide that the proposal that they put in meets our needs. The other is that we could write a scope of work for a private partner and solicit to that. If we were to do that, then likely the capitalization of the water plant would happen by the private partner on the front end and would be amortized over time, and we would buy that water plant back over a period of probably 20 or 30 years. So there's really multiple different paths we could go down. I think it's important that we position ourselves on each of the parallel paths so that we don't sit here on our hands and wait on somebody to approach us, that we continue to move full speed ahead as though we're doing this ourselves. And then if we find an opportunity along the way where we want to engage with a private partner, we certainly can take those opportunities as they present themselves.
Great. So what are some of the next steps you'll be taking, Chris, or the city team will be taking?
Yeah, so our Public Works Department right now, which we've been talking about, is currently and very actively writing a scope of work for this owner's representative that we've talked about. And when I say that, I don't mean one person. It probably is a large engineering firm that would represent our interests in not only the design, but then the bidding of and construction oversight of a new water plant. You know, water plants, well, they're big and they cost a lot. You know, the technology is fairly tried and true at this point, and it's a massive undertaking, but done all over the world. And so, you know, we just need to bring somebody on board that has done it multiple times before, and go to the competitive market, and then oversee the construction and the cutover, and build a plant. That's one path. The other would be to work with you know, a company that we either go find or they find us, that has built water plants in the past, and would come with a deal that we would be interested in.
Great. And Chris, my understanding is we can kind of pursue both parallel tracks at the same time, right?
Absolutely. I think we should.
Yeah,
not we can, we think we should.
Yeah. And that second path in terms of a partner and so forth, is that something, because I'm not having those conversations, but is you or is someone, you know, exploring that possibility or keeping that as an option or sharing?
Yeah, I have not turned down a request for a conversation from anybody on a new water plant. So those are certainly meetings that I'm taking. Had one yesterday, as a matter of fact. And you know, there's definitely people that have interest. It's whether or not we have interest in the model. And so, you know, yes, those discussions are occurring.
Okay, fantastic. And then Mayor, just last topic I had, and this may be for Chris or Raj, if you can could you just update the commission on the South Ocean Drive Bridge, just kind of what we've been going through. I just want to make sure they're educated. We're making progress, but I want them to understand the county interaction with this and so forth. This is Mayor, this is the bridge. Y'all probably know this, but it's a bridge in Harbor Inlet that has outlived its life expectancy and needs to be replaced. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, so I'll ask Raj to make his way over to the podium. I can start by saying I know he's met with the neighborhood over there. I know they've talked about the phasing of that project based upon available funds, because it is a surtax eligible project, and we don't want to necessarily spend general fund dollars or other capital dollars if in fact we can leverage surtax dollars to build that bridge. And I think Raj and his staff in Public Works have come to a agreeable solution with the neighborhood as to timing, and I think everybody's happy. But let me defer to Raj and let him address that directly.
Commissioner Sorensen, we met with the Homeowners Association, Joanne and Mr. Ross, and we shared with them what the manager has said, that rather than spending our general fund dollars, because this is a surtax eligible project, and we have $2.5 million. So we felt that If we try to fast track it the way we originally were thinking in terms of going out for bids in September, October, then we are not only going to be spending out of our pocket, but we are also going to make that project ineligible, which is already approved. So based on this, had the conversation with the homeowners association. They were very receptive to move the start of the project sometime in April. And this gives us enough time to finalize whatever agreement we need to do with the county. And I believe that our bid package is absolutely ready. I mean, we can go out for bids, but there are certain formalities that need to be completed, make sure that whatever provisions the county has in complying with their requirements, we put in there before we go out for bids, because the fear is that if we do, and we miss something and they ask, then it is really going to put us in a difficult spot. So to avoid that, we are just waiting to have the interlocal agreement signed. Once that happens, then since the bid package is ready, we can do it the following day or the following week at the latest.
Great, thanks, Raj. And yes. Raj has done a great job and the team engaging with our neighborhood, and we've all been working together on this, so it's been great. But Mayor, I just wanted everyone just kind of aware we're making progress on that, and just give you a timeline. So thank you, Raj, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I just have a couple things I'd like to bring up. First of all, where do I begin here? So just to follow up a little bit on your questions regarding the water plant and the replacement of 5 Ash, on tonight's agenda, you'll see on the consolidated budget amendment, there is some choices we're going to make tonight as to whether or not to approve that. And one of the things that I noticed there is about $15 million worth of water improvement expenditures that are going to be taken off the list of things to do. And it's my understanding that the reason why those are being deferred is because we are planning to move forward with the replacement of the plant. And these would have just been repairs that would have been short-term repairs. And since we're moving forward with a full replacement of the plant, it would have been a poor use of money, taxpayer money, for doing work on the project that would only be torn down and never used again. So for those that are listening and have an interest in our progress towards the replacement of our water treatment plant, I just want there to be some explanation given to the public that that's the reason why at tonight's meeting, we will be, what's the phrase that's used?
Yeah, we have to use that word abandon.
I know.
That's what
it's called abandoning. Not abandoning our
certainly not
goal to improve our water quality, but it is a term that we're going to someday have to change because it haunts us all to have to say we're abandoning our efforts to clean our water when we're not abandoning it all. Now, you'll recall also, Commissioner Sorensen, that at a previous meeting, this commission made a decision not to entertain any offers or bids, whether or not with regard to whether to privatize our water treatment program. I think that it's a wise decision for this commission to continue its efforts to maintain its control over the ownership and the management of our water treatment system and not to privatize it. So as the city manager continues to speak with opponents who are looking to work with us, it's going to be done with respect to our managing it and maintaining it, not necessarily building it. So I just wanted to add that for those who haven't been keeping up with all the meetings, that's sort of a summary, I believe, of where we are with regard to the replacement of 5 Ash. But continuing on the discussion regarding water, we had, as the vice mayor points out, we're going to have a significant rainstorm in the next few days. And a couple weekends ago, we suffered a significant amount of rain again. And unfortunately, because we had a continuous series of rainy days, the ground was completely saturated. As a result, there were certain neighborhoods in particular that became flooded. I know I drove around several of the neighborhoods. I know other commissioners did the same, and it's and you know, despite all of our efforts, Mother Nature has once again taken over and has refused to allow us to get our work done. Now, many millions of dollars have been spent already in the past to try to shore up our stormwater program, and this commission, not too long ago, also approved the program to improve the stormwater drainage system that we have in our community. And I believe we identified 7 adaptation action areas in which to focus, and those areas are dispersed throughout the city in all 4 districts. And I want the community to understand that this commission is moving aggressively to try to shore up our stormwater response, our ability to handle stormwater. I doubt that, day after day after day of rain is going to ever be able to be dealt with, but we're certainly doing our best as a commission and as a community to ensure that people can be safe in their homes and on the roads after heavy rainfalls. But I do want to point something out, and I don't need to name names, but it was very disconcerting that during the course of the last couple of weeks, this commission was shamed out into the public that for somehow this commission was not doing anything about stormwater, and it's unfortunate because this commission is doing something about stormwater, and we're spending a lot of money. We've borrowed a lot of money, and we have a very, very aggressive program to try to go to neighborhoods in particular that have been overlooked in the past. And then this particular commission knows that no neighborhood will go untouched. We are attempting to address the storm drains problems that we have everywhere. But when I see the phrase "shame on the city of Fort Lauderdale," it really hurts me because it's misinformation. It is wrong information, and it is a fraud upon the community to say that this commission is not moving forward in terms of its stormwater program. I've sat on this dais for years in which we discussed how we're going to address stormwater. The previous commission never funded the program. This commission has, and I want to thank this commission for approving the stormwater program. And I think it's unfortunate that anyone, especially someone on this commission, would recite to the public that we're not doing anything when we in fact are doing something. And this is really important because especially in election time, where everyone is kind of crazy and there's all kinds of statements being made. People listen to this, and regardless of who wins during the election, those statements stick, and people still think, regardless of the fact that I won and Commissioner Glassman won, and the rest of you are now able to serve an additional term. Whatever is said during a campaign to advance a particular candidate's agenda, the bottom line is when you make false statements, people still think that way, and because they're being told that, and it's really unfair for the community to suffer the falsity that they hear during a campaign, and now we as a commission have to deal with it. We have to, as your mayor, I get calls all the time now. Why aren't you doing this, or why aren't you doing that? When in fact we are, and so it's important that we all understand that whatever the decisions of this commission are, that we have to respect, and that we have to try to address the needs of our community as best we can. So having said that, I also want to talk a little bit about what happened during the election. Now, Commissioner Sorensen, I appreciate the comments you made, how this the time we voted now, and also in August, I think Peter Antonacci, who has been our supervisor of election, has pretty much accomplished a very seamless voting process. Unfortunately, we're not seeing this in the rest of the country, but I'm very thankful for his efforts to make sure that Fort Lauderdale and Broward County is not the joke of the country anymore, and he proved that. All the votes were counted timely and in an orderly and good fashion, and I really think that the rest of us felt really good that at the end of the day, there was no mishaps that of the kind that we've experienced before. But that's not to say that electioneering was conducted the same way. For example, when I went out to stand in the Coral Ridge Mall, where the voting site was, this would have been this past weekend. I was confronted by quite a few Trump organizers who, as soon as I showed up, attacked me, not physically, but verbally. They attacked my sexual orientation. They called me a pedophile. They called me a faggot. They were unceasing in their barrage of personal attacks on me. An executive with the Republican Executive Committee spoke to me a couple of days afterwards and apologized for them. And I know that's not Republicans. Republicans are some of my best friends are Republicans, and I know that's not the belief or the practice of the Republican Party. But there were agitators that were hired. They were hired to disrupt the voting process, and I have to say that we shouldn't have to accept that kind of conduct in our community. It is not appropriate. They didn't intimidate me, although they tried to. In fact, what I ended up doing was going over there to talk to them and quieting them down. But they had bullhorns and they had all kinds of things that they were doing to try to scare people from voting. And this is totally unacceptable. Our police responded when they were called. They were the one incident in which I saw police responding. They were very even-handed. They resolved any issues, and I have to commend our law enforcement personnel for knowing how to handle these situations, because I think sometimes in the heat of an election time, people say and do things that they shouldn't, and but in the end, our police department handled it really, really well. We had other incidents too. For example,
I just want to, that's offensive and unacceptable that
I agree.
Anyone would use that language.
Stop there. Well, Commissioner Sorensen didn't stop there. One of the days that I was over at the African American Research Library. Now that is not in our city per se, but it was one of our close voting sites. I was out there electioneering, and some volunteers from my campaign were there. They were confronted by other people, not connected with any political party, but certainly connected with my opposition. And one of my young workers was threatened that he'd be stabbed to death if he didn't get out of the way of this particular worker. Another one of these volunteers, I don't think they were volunteers, they're probably paid election people, repeated the same kind of epithets that I experienced at Coral Ridge. In fact, they went on even further and started describing sexual things that were just laughable. But unfortunately, they're sad more than you can than amusing. And again, it was all tried to intimidate people from not voting and for not participating in the election process. And it's really, really sad that this went on in our community. Now the police were called. In fact, one of the campaign workers called the police on me. This would have been a sheriff, and accused me of pushing them on the ground, which of course obviously didn't happen. But this level of conduct, the fact that people of this caliber were hired to act recklessly in the process, really demeans the entire election process that we have here in our community. Why this happened, I do not know. What their expectation of gain was, I do not know. But all I do know is that this cannot continue to happen in future elections. I know Fort Lauderdale will not have an election of its own in 4 years, but there will be other elections in 2 years that will take place within our city. And we have to be much more responsible and make sure that we don't allow this again. And I'm really disappointed that that I had to deal with that. But I'm glad I dealt with it because at least I knew firsthand what was going on. And to make personal attacks against me on who I am and what I am, it's offensive, it's bigotry, and it's doesn't belong in our city. It happened to be me this time, and I don't know who's going to be next time. But this is not acceptable. So I just feel that we're better than this, and if there's anybody who was a party to this, shame on you. And the fact that any of this, whether it be the spread of misinformation, whether it be hiring of individuals who conducted themselves in this way, knowingly that they were going to act this way to try to intimidate other poll workers, is offensive and should not be tolerated within our community. So while I think the voting process was smooth, the electioneering aspect was not, and we have to find and discover ways in order to make those changes. I want to talk a little bit about the government campus. The government campus, we had a meeting, as you know, and there was a discussion regarding next steps. But before we start talking about next steps, I think that we really need to think where we're going with this. And if we need to make any changes, we need to make them now. I never thought this was going to be part of the discussion, but it seems that the county wants to build a bridge, and they want to build a bridge right through our city. And while that's a separate discussion for another time, it really isn't. It's going to be something that is going to impact this government center. The bridge they want to build is in order to accommodate the coastal link of more trains on the existing tracks on the east side of the county. And it sounds great to have commuter rail, more trains. People can start using trains instead of cars, and it's all part of the 21st century attempts to reduce traffic. But to do so means that we're going to have the interference of the east-west traffic, whether it be a road, whether it be the river. It's going to completely complicate and confuse the traffic patterns that we currently have in our city. So the State Department of Transportation and various other stakeholders, the county and so forth, have all been talking about building a bridge through the city of Fort Lauderdale in order to raise it above Broward Boulevard and raise it above the New River so it doesn't interfere with traffic. My concern is two things, and I've expressed it before. One is, if you build this bridge, it's going to go smack up against this brand new government center that we're talking about. And what's the point of building and designing a building that's going to be right up against a bridge? And honestly, I can't support that. That's why I've advocated a tunnel, because a tunnel will not only help alleviate the traffic going east-west, it will also avoid the idea of a bridge being built through our city. There is not one city in this world that has ever benefited from having a bridge lacerate it in half like this would. And also, it would permanently fix the division between this side of the tracks and the other side of the tracks in Fort Lauderdale. I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of cementing the racial division that began with the building of the railroad years ago that in which one community was separated from another. If we build a bridge, it's going to keep that separation for another 100 years, which again, I'm not in favor of. So as we have our discussions regarding this government center, keep in mind that this mayor is not in favor of having a collaborative joint government center if those are the stakes that we're going to have to suffer. I would recommend that we have our own building and put it on our own property, and they want to build their building along a bridge, that's their choice. So I'm just putting it out there because I can't talk about this privately with any of you. I have to talk about it here in public, but I just want you to know my feelings. And I'm getting very uncomfortable with the direction in which this project is going.
Well, Mayor, a question on that.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm not in a lot of high-level county meetings, so, but I've never been in a meeting where I've heard people talking about a bridge or a tunnel with any specificity or plans. I've just, so I don't.
Well, I'm telling you, that's what's been, those are the discussions that have been going on. I'm here to bring that to everyone's attention.
What, that the county's saying this, or with who, or I don't.
The county and FDOT.
The county's talking with FDOT about building a bridge. So
right through our city.
Okay. And
it would.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, and what it would do is it would start around 7th or 8th Street North and go down past the river on the south. And it has to be built in such a way that the gradient is so that, you know, trains can achieve can keep their speed going. And right now they're looking at a 55-foot bridge. That's 55 feet from the bottom of the bridge. And so that will accommodate like 75% of the boat traffic, but there's very little consideration being given for how the rest of the city is going to be impacted. For example, it's going to completely shut off Himmershey Street. And the historic district. It'll be blocked off from going east over the tracks because the bridge will prevent it from the foundations of the bridge will prevent it from that pathway. So Himmershey Street will be cut in half, and then as it goes north, it will create that slice through the center of the city, and so that's what they're talking about. That's why I keep raising this issue. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you raising it. So is the county administrator talking with Secretary O'Reilly and they're kind of having this plan without us being at the table? Or I don't understand who's there and who's kind of moving this forward.
So the parties are as follows. There's the county, there's FDOT, there's Brightline, and there's us. And I've attended a couple of meetings over the last, pre-COVID and one during COVID, and this is the way the discussion is going. And at the last joint meeting we had, you were at that joint meeting, right?
Right. Yeah.
With the county, yeah. At the last joint meeting, it was obliquely referenced by Commissioner Beam Fur about the bridge versus the tunnel. And he rightly brought up this issue, where are we going with this? And I appreciated his bringing it up, but it never really seems to, get past just, talking about it and saying, oh yeah, it's going to impact this joint government center. Mm-hmm. So, I just think unless they can find a way to draw that bridge through the building or in some architecturally interesting way around the building or whatever, it doesn't make sense to build a building there. And that's my feeling. I mean, you all may feel differently. I've been looking at the models and the renderings and the this and the that, and it just, no matter how you try to skew the design, it just, you're going to have a bridge right up against your building. And so I just want to bring you all. Yes.
When you're in these meetings with FDOT and the county and Brightline and you say, I don't think a bridge is a good idea, what do they say to you?
they say a bridge is less expensive than a tunnel. And I say, no kidding. I said, but there are ways to fund this. There's federal funds as well as state funds as well as Brightline, and they're all parties to this undertaking. And and we just passed a 1-cent sales tax, okay, and and we're entitled to our portion, and I think that that running a bridge through our city will kill our downtown.
Yeah.
And I just think that, all the efforts that we make to try to build community and to try to create neighborhoods and to try to interface one neighborhood with another, and then to build a bridge right through our city is just counterproductive.
Yeah. Well, this is helpful for me to track, and I'm happy to be an additional advocate for that. Because one, I really want the government campus. I think it'd be phenomenal. I think we can do it together with the county, but I understand your concern about the bridge. So what I'd like to do is advocate as best as I can around this as well, in addition to what you're doing.
Okay.
Mayor?
I'd actually like to see a presentation myself and just actually see what it looks like and where it is. And, with that amendment just passing on Tuesday, we really won't have much of a voice when the county wants to come in and spend the penny sales tax. They're going to come in and we don't need to give them authority to do so. So that's a whole new issue that we'll deal with. But I'd like to see a presentation. I know we did see Business 3. I know we were going to talk about it, and I thought we were agendaing this the Joint Government Center, so we could get a little bit more information as a commission as opposed to individually, and come to a consensus so that.
Okay, so we'll talk about it
Okay.
to that point. But I
Mayor?
haven't seen any renderings either.
You haven't?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, Vice Mayor.
I agree with Commissioner Moritas that we need to see, details, a presentation. We need to see what the thoughts are, because the one in Miami-Dade Governmental Center, that's how that's built. The train just drops people right off at the Governmental Center. That train and the bridge goes all the way from South Miami up through Coconut Grove, Vizcaya. It goes all the way to the airport. So let's maybe look at it. And I don't have enough detail, but I know that it seems to work well with the Miami-Dade Governmental Center.
Well, it's because it's incorporated in the architecture. And I've requested multiple times, let's see how we can incorporate this bridge through, in some sort of architecturally viable way. And I've yet to see it. No one's willing to come up with it. But honestly, it's not just its proximity to the government center. It's also, what is it going to do to the rest of our city? What is a bridge going to do to the rest of our city? And that's equally important.
Well, it depends. Right. But I think it depends on how it's done. I mean, I've seen, and it depends what it looks like also. I mean, there are bridges now that are done in a very artistic way, very in a way that is almost attractive. But I agree. I'm not educated enough about this because I haven't seen anything. So I really can't, expound upon whether I think it's a good idea or not, because I just don't have the detail. But that's why I think we need to see, these details.
Okay, and I wish I could see them too. And but we keep talking about this government center, but no one's willing to talk about the elephant in the room. Okay, so so it's really important that I want to make sure you're all aware of this, so that that as the discussion moves forward, I don't want you to feel like you're surprised that if I should bring the subject up again, because I'm very concerned about a bridge being built right through the middle of our city, and I can tell you that FDOT is not looking to build anything less than the cheapest, least expensive bridge they can come up with, and there's nothing attractive about anything that that they're planning to build. So anyway, all right. Any other questions with regard to that? All right. I also want to bring up one last thing. And I like Commissioner McKenzie, if you could respond to this. There was an article in this blog called Florida Bulldog. A complaint was made against you for running over part of the encampment behind the Salvation Army. And I think that's really unfair that they would have accused you of something. And that's why I wanted to ask you, was there any truth to this allegation that was in the Florida Bulldog?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so there was an article in the Sun Sentinel about 2 weeks ago, and it was based on a story that was printed in this book called the Florida Bulldog, and it says that you took your truck and ran through the encampment behind the Salvation Army, and it was a complaint filed by Jeff Weinberger, in which they indicated that you accuses Fort Lauderdale City Commissioner Robert McKenzie of ramming a pickup truck into a tent at the camp, and you supposedly said, "Well, this is my property," referring to the campsite, and that and this was in the Sun Sentinel, and so this is what I'm talking about. I just want to make sure that you had a chance to respond to this. Is this something that did happen?
Who am I responding to? You or I mean, because I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm asking this. There
was something that you made a comment to in the paper, and it was very personal what you said, and I care not to discuss this at this particular time because I have no idea what it is. You obviously know since you narrated it and reprinted it in the blog that you referred to. So I have no idea what you're talking about in terms of the details, and
so you know nothing about this.
Move the agenda.
You know nothing about this. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure because people made allegations, and I don't want the people that live in this city to think that this is the policy of the city of Fort Lauderdale or of this commission. Our homeless folks are respected, and we try to work with them to get them out of homelessness. We're engaged in a number of programs in our city in terms of social services as well as housing. This summer in particular, when it came to COVID-19, we did our best to try to find housing, at least temporary housing, to ensure their safety and the safety of others around them. And certainly it was not the policy of the city to run over their campsites with trucks. So if this is something you know nothing about, I just wanted you to have the opportunity to be, on the record as saying that you know nothing about this. I also want to ask you, getting back to what I was saying before about the African American Research Library, were you at all aware of the conduct of some people that were working that area? One of those people said that they were hired by you. Do you have any knowledge of any of those campaign workers that were working out there? Were you involved in any of the campaign workers at the African American Research Library? You're on mute. Robert, you're on mute. I can't hear your response. Well, I guess there's no response. I just want to bring it to the commission's attention that at least two of the workers out there indicated that they were working on behalf of Commissioner McKenzie, and those are the people that were perpetrating the kind of conduct that I spoke of earlier. Okay, moving forward, go on to business one. Discussion of holiday lighting events and downtown countdown event. Mr. Lagerblum.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. So let me start the discussion, but let me get Phil close to a microphone as well, because our special events are planned in Parks and Recreation. We brought this item tonight because obviously one of the biggest events, or several of the biggest events we do as a city, happen in the next 30 to really the next 30 days, where we have a light up event in each of the districts. Let's light up the beach, light up the Galt, the Esplanade Park, and the light up Sistrunk event. All very good events, all very well attended events that may be a blessing and a curse this year all at the same time. And so we really just wanted to have a discussion with the commission as to what your expectations were for light up events this year, what your level of comfort was, whether we were going to light up certain areas and just not throw big festivities around it, or conversely, if we were going to do our best to light up things and throw safe, distanced, and COVID-friendly events. And so I'll lay that foundation, turn it over to Phil. Hopefully that was a set the stage, and let him take it from here so that we can get some information from you all so that as we move in the next 30 days, we deliver events that you're satisfied with. Phil.
So yeah, thank you, City Manager. So this really,
You speak
Mayor,
into the microphone a little bit better.
this is a continuation of some of the discussion you had at your last meeting, just to kind of bring it forward. We are getting close to needing to make a decision right now, mainly on the light up events for the holidays. We are, as in past years, getting all the lighting and the trees and the menorahs and everything up as we've done in the past. So we really wanted to get a little direction from the commission on what you all saw on how you wanted to handle the light up events that we have around the city. So that's kind of the one thing. And then, of course, as we go into the downtown countdown and the New Year's Eve event, you know how that works on 2nd Street, and it's a lot of people in tight quarters. And that's another one that takes probably more planning. And so, we have been kicking around some ideas on how we might do that, maybe virtually or streaming at some point instead of our typical downtown countdown. So that's a couple things that we really kind of needed some direction on, so we can, on the planning side, get it done in the next week and then next month.
Anyone have any questions?
Comments?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. We did take this back to District 1, so thank you, Phil. I probably don't support the downtown countdown where we have a lot of people congregating in one area, but I think we can probably have smaller events around the light up throughout the city, maybe at least one in each district. So when we talked to District 1, we did say, obviously light the tree up. We'd love to have the tree back in that area if that's possible, that where you had it last year. Maybe some music, if that's okay. And then the business owners also said maybe we could get some help monitoring people. Maybe there's an RSVP system or something like the Las Olas Art Festival, or I don't know if there's any way we could just get some additional staff to help monitor the crowds, or maybe we need a different way to get people to RSVP. Maybe use the parking lot. Like I know in the Galt, we have the Beach Community Center parking lot. Maybe we could use that for something. So not large and maybe managed a little bit. So that would require additional personnel. And we did kind of talk about maybe the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, since I know that was in the past, that's the first day we light something up in the city. Maybe we light the whole city up that night so we can kind of kick off the whole season at once. That's the feedback I had.
Anyone else have any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, Mayor, Ben, just had a, Phil and Mayor, I was talking with Luke Mormon, and they're kind of interested in 12 Days of Christmas happening on Las Olas. And Phil, I just want to see if this syncs up with your kind of what you've been talking about. Basically, each night kind of virtual and in person, some type of festivity on Las Olas, which would be limited and would not be, a street wouldn't be closed down or anything like that. Is that something you've been talking with Phil?
So I have not, Commissioner. We've been mainly dealing with the ones that we put on. So, we have Carter Park, we have the beach, we have the Galt. So we've had those spread around the city on different nights. So
yep.
I thought I kind of heard from the last meeting that maybe the idea was, do we do it? And if we do it, do we do them all on one night? Or do we at the same time or different times on one night? Or do we continue to have them on different nights? So that's kind of what we were looking at going into today, is how we handle the events that we are involved in ourselves.
Okay, great. So
Well, Commissioner, how do you envision 12 days of Christmas? Like on the fifth day of Christmas, what was the fifth day of Christmas? Maids and milking?
Yes. Yeah, they'd have some kind of special nuance to each night of those 12. And I guess this is more of a question for Chris. The only question they had, Chris, is on Southeast 9th Ave, where we've got blocking for some of the construction. On a couple of those nights, they wanted to have like a musical event there where it's not for gathering, but just kind of music as people are walking around. So wanted to maybe connect you with Luke on that, Chris, or.
Yeah, that's quite an undertaking to try to get, depending on what level of planning and participation effort that needs, we would need to get on that very quickly.
Yeah, and my understanding is that it'd be very limited, like no stage, no small, handful of people in, sharing some music or playing some kind of music, but I'll connect Luke with you on that, if that's all right.
I would also just encourage, for what it's worth, if they blend in the other holiday traditions or celebrations that exist this time of year and broaden it beyond just a 12-day of Christmas event.
Yep.
But it begs the question, how are we going to avoid crowds if we are having a lighting up event? How is this going to work? Like, who's going to participate?
Right. So, really our thought as we were toying with it was that if we simply lit up the things that we normally light up and not have a big, the thing that draws the crowd is the event where the switch gets flipped.
Right.
And so if we go through the effort of becoming festive in our displays, but not have the event that has the switch being flipped, we would still have a sense of lighting up our city. I think that was the notion behind doing it all on the same day, where all of a sudden Fort Lauderdale just lit up. But I know that some of these events, we just had a boat show. We're going to talk about an air show tonight, and it's sort of out of one side of our mouth versus the other.
Well, like for example, on Sistrunk Boulevard, when we do light up Sistrunk, that's
Right.
a very tight, compact. A lot of people come out, kids. There's a toy giveaway, and hundreds of people are out there. We can't do that this year.
Right. I just, that particular light up event, we miss out on a lot if we don't. A lot of those, the toy giveaway is a pretty special moment for a lot of those kids. So, I can play both sides of it, but I think what we're really just looking for is whether or not we want to have a festivity around the lighting of whatever we light up. I think we've gotten ourselves to the belief that we can safely light things up and we can safely have a festive looking city. It's just whether or not we want to go through the bands and the music and the chorals and the stuff.
Well, we just can't tell anybody we're doing it. It's just
have a pop-up event.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yep.
I'm with you, but how can we do it? Tell me.
Well, so in the Gulf, so on the street,
Use that as an example.
I'm gonna use that as an example. So there are just restaurants there. So the restaurants would like maybe a little PR just to get people to come down and enjoy sitting outside at their restaurant.
This is like in the North Beach
Yep.
shops there.
Correct. So for us, we're thinking it's just a way to drive some traffic to the restaurants to help, generate business while also having the trees lit. And eventually we're going to light the median and stuff like that. But that's still coming with our project we're working on. So I think we're not thinking huge, but they do this anyways down there. It's just to get a little bit more traffic. It's more of an economic.
We have that whole construction site there.
We do have a construction site. That's why we're kind of talking, but we can use the sidewalk. We can direct some parking to the Beach Community Center stuff. They can still do something. And because we have the construction, we especially need to drive some business down there so people know they're open for business. So it doesn't have to be, they still have music outside. So maybe it's not city sponsored music this year. Maybe the businesses can have their own music outside like we normally do. But, I think I think we're just envisioning just lighting the tree up, and then just publicizing it to get people just to come and sit and eat while they're doing their social distancing. I mean, Las Olas could be the same way. They're just eating on Las Olas. I mean, we have Light Up Las Olas on December 1st. I know it's not a city sponsored event, but maybe we piggyback that somehow and do everything
Is
on
it December 1st this year?
December 1st. So they are lighting it up. They're still gonna have the tree, and they're still gonna have their festivities at that space.
We're not doing Christmas on Las Olas this year.
I don't believe so.
Correct. No,
We're
we're
doing
not.
Christmas.
No.
No, but we're lighting up
I'm
Las
not
Olas, and
aware-
I don't know if it's
I'm
Jack
not
and
aware of
Jill
a
that does.
specific lighting up event. Commissioner Moritas, you may know
Yeah.
more about it.
Yeah, someone's doing it. It's at the Styles Building.
So there is the one that through the Jack and Jill.
Is it Jack
I
and
think it's
Jill?
on tonight's to do a small one at down on Las Olas.
Right.
So, but I might add, Commissioner, one thing that we've talked about, if we want to, instead of having an event that night, was to maybe take the dollars that we typically would spend on that one night and spread it out over a few nights and provide some smaller entertainment for people to come down and kind of spread out the crowd too. And so instead of having one night where we have a lot of stuff going on, maybe we have multiple nights where we have a little less stuff going on and still utilize and try to draw people down to those areas. So that's the same way with the beach.
Mhm.
I mean, the beach, if you know, last year with the new park and everything, we had a lot of people at the light up. So the thought there was maybe we do smaller events in the park during the holidays. And so we kind of continue to draw people to those areas, but not all at one night.
Yeah, I support that. I think we can just do something small. And like I said, just celebrate it, advertise it, get people to our restaurants and shops. And then we can celebrate every night next year once we get through this pandemic. We'll have a festival every night. I don't know. We need to do a little something though.
Genia Ellis had talked about having a float and I guess going around the city. Did she propose that to you, Phil?
Yeah, we've talked about a float. We've also talked about a float on land and a float on water. You could do it in a boat, or you could do it on the float on the back of a truck and go from place to place.
Well, if it floods anymore, we could probably do a boat on
Yeah.
it.
Amphibious. I think we just do something small. We just get it lit up, and have promoted a little bit. And I don't think we make it too complicated. I mean, we have a lot going on right now just to do something.
Yeah, I think we should keep expenses down and just do some, an individual district, if we want to work with our own neighbors and businesses, do something small within our own districts.
Vice Mayor, you're quiet on this.
Sometimes you just need to listen, Mayor. But as I mentioned, at the last,
so
please. At the last meeting, I mentioned that I thought it was a good idea to just do one big night of light up, because then you would have the crowds dispersed throughout the city. You have one in every district, which we typically can do, and we do have that. But if you did it all in one night and you lit the whole city up in one night with a countdown, boom, I think it would be beautiful. The whole city would be lit up at one moment. And folks that are, don't have to want to travel, if they're in one district, they go to that district's event. And I don't know, I just think that you might be able to keep it down. And if you keep it socially distanced, and I always was just in favor of doing it all in one night, but I'm open to whatever, people think that will work. I just want to make sure that it's done safely. That's all.
Kind of like our fireworks celebration that we had. We did it throughout the city. We obviously can bring some fireworks to our lighting ceremony too. Didn't we talk about like live from each district, Vice Mayor, where we are all gonna be reporting live from our districts? Maybe we're not doing that anymore.
Did we say that? We did talk about that?
Yeah, we were talking about New Year's Eve countdown. Yeah.
Oh,
that's another issue.
No, I mean, we were talking about the same thing, but it was going to be on the light up.
That's going
to
be the
that
topic.
is another issue. Mayor, you're correct. That is another issue, but we need to start talking about that soon, because that's not so far away either.
No, it's 2 months.
Not even.
So I know you celebrate early.
Mayor, how could December 30th?
Where we left what do you think we've decided?
We've decided 3 or 4 different things at this
Yeah.
point. So
I think having it on one night makes a lot of sense.
I
Okay,
agree.
all on the same night. All right, and as Commissioner Sorensen said, every community can sort of do their own thing, and organize their own event, but organize it in such a way that it's coordinated with the other districts, so that we are doing it. We do one light up event. Say, when does it get dark? Like 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Oh,
Now it's
5, 6,
5:36.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, so
6 o'clock. Yeah.
so
Early bird.
Yeah. Mayor, put your
so-
clock back.
yeah, right. So if we do it at one night, same place, and each commissioner can be charged with organizing an event, coordinating it with you, Phil, and trying to keep it in a way that people remain safe and we don't really gather a crowd, but at least we let people know. What did we do in District 4? It was the Esplanade Park, right? That's where we lit up the
Yeah, that's the Get Lit one, but then there's also that event. Los Olas does light up some stuff, and then there's that light up at the Styles Building and at YOLO. Maybe I'll offer up, Mayor, if you're talking about all the events on the same night, we, with what we thought was a little bit of foresight, scheduled the commission meeting agenda for December to be scheduled around Christmas on Las Olas, since we heard from the commission everybody wanted to go, but we were always here. And so that first meeting in December now is on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday, because we have Tuesday off for Christmas on Las Olas. That isn't going to happen.
Still happening.
They're maybe doing something small, but it's certainly not the scale of the big one. If we wanted to capitalize on December the 1st and use it as a Tuesday night that the commissioners probably routinely keep their schedules open, I just throw that out there as a day that might be a good day if we're going to try to do them all the same night. We could do it in replacement of the commission meeting that we routinely would have been scheduled that night, if that's not too late into the season for when you'd like to see things lit up.
Well, I think that could work if we wanted to piggyback off their event, then that could be kind of the Las Olas event. And then we just have to plan if Commissioner Sorensen wants that. And then we have the beach and the golf and Commissioner McKenzie's district. I'm fine with that night or the night before Thanksgiving, like we normally did in the past.
Okay.
I'm good with December 1st.
Either or. Okay.
Either or is fine.
Commissioner McKenzie.
No response.
Well, he's on mute. Commissioner McKenzie. It looks like he's trying to respond. Let me go to Vice Mayor Glassman real quick while we see.
No, I'm
there
fine.
we go.
I'm fine with whatever the group decides.
Okay.
I know I'm doing something, no public gathering, but I'm planning a smaller celebration in my district as we speak. So.
Okay, Vice Mayor Glassman.
Yes, no, I'm fine. Let me just ask you a question. We're definitely meeting on what day, Chris?
December 2 is what we agreed upon to meet in December. December 2nd and 15th are the 2 days in December.
Okay. I'm just trying to think. The mayor mentioned Esplanade Park, but he said District 4, but I think Esplanade Park is District 2, Mayor.
It is District 2.
Close.
Okay, so
what was the light up event in District 4? Was it just Las Olas?
Just Las Olas, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. So District 2 would be Esplanade. District 1 is the Galt, and District 3 was the Christmas was Sistrum. So light up Sistrum. 2
sort of gets credit for the beach too, because
Mayor, we did the big light up at the new Las Olas Social Site Park last year.
I guess District 2 is really lit.
We are. Thank you.
Well, I think you do the Hanukkah lights on the beach, right? The blue and the white.
Do we have
No.
a snowman this year?
Okay.
A snowman? Los Olas?
Yeah,
Beach?
that's a good question. I have not seen, well, I actually have seen a picture of Olaf
Olaf.
for this year.
On?
No, he doesn't. I
We should
don't
put
know
a
if he's
mask on him, don't you think?
distanced or not.
Yeah,
Be a
what is
good-
what are
We're gonna have
we
to
doing
follow
this
up on
time?
that.
It's that time
Good
of year.
snowman. Yeah, we need him back.
Yeah, Olaf
what
has to
is-
be there. A19 Las Olas.
Right.
what's he
That's
wearing
your
this
light
year?
up party. That's the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Do we have Clarence on? Let me guess. Clarence is in the room too.
So let me
Clarence.
step back, but I just want to confirm that what we'll work on is the different events, and we'll work with each commissioner on how we're going to pull those off on one night. And I'll confirm with Chris on what night it's going to be. And then on Downtown Countdown, from what I'm hearing is we probably need to rethink, try to have something, but rethink how that's going to work. And so we'll work on that and bring that back as well, or I'll share with the manager.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil. Maybe the Downtown Countdown is the same sort of thing. Every district gets a party. Look at this. I'm getting a lot of
It's only
parties.
one
now.
anchor.
Only one anchor? Oh, we can get a couple.
Clarence, can you update us real quick on the beach display?
I think we should
at,
drop.
Las
You know
Olas
how they,
Boulevard?
you know, in Times Square, how they drop the ball on top of the building. I don't know. Is it possible to take one of our tall buildings and suspend it? Guess not. Never mind.
What's he in this year? I got a picture of him here. I'm pulling up right now, but you'll probably beat me to it.
What's
you're
the,
gonna pull
what's
it up
the,
on the
what's
screen?
the question?
We're going to show you what the Sandman is going to look like this year.
Oh, good. We have him.
Yes. He comes to us this year on a jet ski, it looks like.
Yes.
Jet ski.
Good evening. Yes, he's on a jet ski.
Do you have a picture?
He's trying to, there it is. But-
At least we have him.
Wow. What does your screen say?
I've lost it.
It's blocked.
He's got some pretty cool shades on, but we can mask him up.
Mask him up. Big classic. I'll never forget.
Chris, where are you seeing this? I'm not seeing it.
No, you're not seeing it yet. I'm seeing it on my computer. I don't know if I can, for those of you that are on the Zoom call, I'm happy to share my screen. So let me try it here and see if that happened.
Yes.
For those that are
Yes,
on,
there
maybe
you
that's
go.
the commission to see.
Wow, that's pretty
Uh,
elaborate.
That's nice.
We're just loading it here in the chambers, but for everybody who's on the Zoom call, that's what he looks like this year. We've removed the middle finger and now he only has two. So that's more going the peace sign this
Peace
year.
sign.
What's Miami Christmas lights?
That's the name of the company that does the
Okay.
install. Like,
As long as they
that's
got
just the company's name that does the lights.
Yeah.
This is I'm sorry. This is preliminary. If there's some changes suggested, then we can make whatever changes.
I would work on the mouth a little.
He's got to put a mask on.
Well, as soon as we put a mask on it, the mouth won't matter.
Yeah, I
Put a
mean, it
mask.
looks like his lips are stitched together or something, stitched up.
They're seashells.
Seashells.
I can't see from here. Let me pinch it out. Are those seashells?
They're shells.
He's
Okay.
grinning.
Got
Okay.
starfish for
Of course, if the arm is brought down and he's got the two fingers out, he could be like a rapper.
All right.
Okay. Good deal.
Thank you.
Chris, what do we, along these lines? Well, I guess first, Phil, are you getting clear enough direction from us, or do you need us to summarize this?
So the direction I've gotten at this point is that we're going to be consistent amongst the same night. It's either going to be the night before Thanksgiving or December 1st. That we're going to do a citywide light up all at the same time. That's not going to preclude people from coming to one of the locations that gets lit up, but that we will have multiple happening at the same time, which naturally will dilute the crowd. and that we're going to work with each of the district commissioners to make sure that we do our best to meet your needs, desires for your light up event in your district, and that we're going to then advertise that and ready for it. And we'll, rather than having ceremonials switch flipping, we'll just generally light up the city at the same time.
Great. And then in terms of, social distancing and so forth, Chris, what would be the general idea?
6 feet, masks are required.
Yep.
I mean, same thing.
Yep. And no closing down of streets?
I don't know that we necessarily have a reason to impede traffic this year with the size of the events we're doing.
Yep.
I want to work with Commissioner McKenzie a little bit on Sistrunk, because that one, it might work easier to light that tree if we didn't have cars rolling right there in front of it. But we'll look at that. I think Las Olas is probably okay because of the plaza effect
Right.
that's there. It's has a larger area. The Galt will do what we need to do. Obviously, the beach and Esplanade are sort of self-contained, and I don't think there's really any traffic impacts there. So really the only one I could think of that might benefit from maybe even a lane closure, just so that we can, that tree is pretty close to the street, as I remember correctly, on Sistrunk. We want to make sure that there's enough room that people can distance.
Yep. And Chris, along those lines, I got a request for a few more. We used to have some signs. Ben Rogers, I think, helped put these up. The signs for masks on Las Olas, like just in the course of the day and evening. Can we get some of those put back up?
The sandwich boards, those little
Yes.
A-frame looking thing. Okay, sure.
Please. And then just one other kind of event question. Exotics on Las Olas, Chris, I was reaching out to the leaders of that in terms of kind of planning for distancing and so forth and crowds. Have you seen that plan for how that will work?
I have not read that plan for how it will work. I know it's a week from Sunday, so
Right.
maybe our team has, maybe Phil's group has looked at that plan, or the county.
Yeah, we have, Commissioner, and we also, again, rely on the county, and the county reviews that as well. So anything that's going forward at this point is being reviewed and approved by the county as well.
And so obviously the county then has reviewed that and approved it, the mitigation plan.
I'm pretty sure. I can't off the top of my head. I get emails from time to time on what they've approved, but I'll double check, but it wouldn't go forward with approval.
Yeah, thanks. If you can just double check and let me know. I think they have approved it, but I just want to make sure we've reviewed it. We're comfortable with it as well.
Okay.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Chris.
Great. Anybody else? Anything else on this issue? Okay. Thank you so much. Phil, you have your marching orders. I don't know what they are, but I'm sure you do. Okay.
We're close. We'll keep it consistent.
Okay.
We'll make it work. Business 2, Mr. Mayor and commissioners. This was requested by the commission 3 or 4 meetings ago to have an update from our sustainability group on how we have been working towards reducing our carbon footprint. And so this is really just an informational item for you all to see some of the things we've done, some of the levels that we've gotten to, and I will turn it over to Dr. Nancy Gassman for today's presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the city's accomplishment related to our reduction of our carbon footprint. With this first slide, an organization's carbon footprint is all about how they are emitting greenhouse gases. And those greenhouse gases are things like methane and carbon dioxide. And as they become more concentrated in the atmosphere, they prevent heat from escaping, and that ends up creating a warmer Earth. During the course of my lifetime, which is incorporated into this graphic, carbon dioxide has increased by 100 parts per million. And based on the available science, experts note that 350 parts per million is the target maximum if we want to preserve a planet to which life is presently adapted. So anything above 350 parts per million is really creating a very different Earth. And recently, in May of last year, we peaked at 418 parts per million. As you're all aware, the sea level rise is a consequence of climate change caused by this increasing concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And in May of 2020, the Commission adopted this sea level rise projection. And I want to bring your attention to the right side of this slide, because all of the scenarios that are used to generate this projection for sea level rise are based on the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that are emitted moving forward. So the less emissions that are generated both locally and globally, the lower the potential curve is that we will be living on over the course of the next 100 years. When the city started to consider how to address the carbon footprint, that was initiated in essentially 2011 with our first sustainability action plan. This is the foundation when we decided that 20% reduction of our greenhouse gases from the 2010 baseline by the year 2020 was our goal. And it would require us to take actions across a number of different functional activities related to energy and transportation, waste and recycling, in order for us to achieve that 20% by 2020. When you consider specifically the city's operations, we have achieved 19.5% between 2010 and 2019. And so we are absolutely on target to achieve that 20% by 2020 in our city emissions. And that is mainly related to our electricity use and our transportation activities. In the community, we've also been able to reduce community emissions by about a 15%, even though we've seen a dramatic rise in our population. And so our per capita use is going down substantially. And that 15% has been achieved in part by Florida Power and Light generating cleaner, greener energy by upgrading their power plants. Our building codes have required greater energy efficiency for new construction in both the envelope and in the type of appliances that are installed, and incentives for existing buildings that are related to having more efficient air conditioning units. So all of those have contributed to reducing the community's carbon footprint, specifically related to electricity, by about 15%. Within our own fleet, we've reduced fuel about 4% since 2014. The blue line on this graph shows the fact that this has been done despite the fact that we've increased our total fleet inventory by about 16%. So we have more cars, and yet we've been able to reduce the amount of fuel that we have used across the board. And we've done this by focusing on right-sizing our fleet, replacing traditional vehicles with hybrids. We have a certain number of electric vehicles in our fleet now. We have almost 100 ultra-low emissions vehicles within our fleet, and we continue to look for opportunities to use alternative fuel like propane to fuel certain types of equipment. The city has also achieved these gains in energy efficiency through a range of projects in reducing energy consumption. Lighting retrofits using LEDs and motion sensors at our parking garages. We have changed out pumps at our utility and at our swimming pools and put in much more efficient, what are called variable speed pumps. And all of those have contributed to reducing our electrical use. Within City Hall specifically, bringing again your attention to the graphic, we started out in the 2016 range with replacing all of the lighting in City Hall with LEDs. Over the course of the last few years, we've run a number of cultural mindset and behavior challenges related to flip the switch, where we've encouraged people who work in this building to be smarter about electrical use. We've also done a number of smaller retrofits. And over the course of time, that's helped us reduce the amount of energy that we've used in this building. Most recently, we replaced our analog thermostats with digital programmable thermostats. The green line is showing the actual achievement in energy reduction, and the red line is what we thought we could achieve. through using those programmable thermostats. This has resulted in an almost $34,000 change in annual electrical use at City Hall. So we've not only paid for the cost of those retrofits, but we've substantially outperformed. And we're currently working with the Office of Budget to consider if these savings can somehow be reinvested for additional retrofits to drive more savings in other facilities within the city. As I mentioned earlier, there's really two different sectors that we look at very closely. One is electrical use and the other one is transportation. And throughout the community, we have done a lot of work through transportation and mobility. Since fiscal 16, over 45 miles of bike facilities have been installed, and that includes bike lanes, shared use paths, and bike routes, and sidewalks have been installed throughout the city. And this has been in partnership with FDOT, Broward County, and the Broward MPO. And these have accounted for more than 80 projects identified in the Connecting the Blocks initiative that started in 2013. In addition, the city continues to add electrical vehicle charging stations in its parking garages and lots. We currently have 9 stations to date, and we've also installed more than 60 bicycle parking spaces within our parking areas to support the use of bicycles for transportation. We've also incorporated these ideas about energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reductions within our Advanced Fort Lauderdale Comprehensive Plan, now having its own dedicated climate element, and in our citywide design and construction manual that guides how we build in the public realm. And these have all incorporated a variety of different activities that can help us reduce our carbon footprint. In terms of renewable energy, the city has made very modest investments in renewable energy to date. We have a solar panel on our beach community center. We've embraced solar equipment for parking meters and for traffic signs. And we even have a few geothermal systems at some of our swimming facilities. But this is an area where a change in policy could rapidly drive additional investments in solar in city operations. From a community standpoint, we as a city have supported joining several property assessed clean energy programs. Those are the PACE programs that have allowed people to invest in more energy efficient windows, hurricane windows, better insulated roofing, and solar installations within their homes.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say geothermal systems, would you tap into the core of the earth?
So you essentially drill a well and you circulate water down below the hottest part of the surface area into the cooler part of the aquifer. And so you're not actually using the aquifer, you're using a recirculating system. But the fact that the surface of the water, the surface below the surface is cooler than above the surface allows you to reduce the amount of energy and create a cooling in that water.
Thank you.
Because of the work that the city has done to date, we've been recognized by a number of national awards, state and national awards. Through the Department of Energy's Better Building Challenge, we reduced energy consumption in 1.3 million square feet by 20% once we joined this challenge. The Department of Energy also awarded the city a gold certification for policies and permitting that reduced the cost of installing rooftop solar. So that, again, helps the community be able to embrace and adopt rooftop solar quicker through our permitting and requirements. The city also achieved, for the second time, a gold certification as a Florida Green Local Business government. And we've also been recognized as having the 36th greenest fleet in North America, as well as Tree City USA. We just submitted our application for the 42nd consecutive year. Things that are currently in progress in terms of continuing to invest in the reduction of our carbon footprint. Sustainability is a major objective in the park master plan implementation, and there are many opportunities as we invest in those bond dollars to continue to improve the energy efficiency and include solar energy in those new facilities that we'll be building as part of the bond. Florida statute requires that all municipal buildings are built to a green standard, such as a LEED standard or Green Globe standard. And so we're already required to build efficient buildings, but there's opportunities with the bond to have a variety of different opportunities to increase renewable energy, incorporate energy efficiency, and also provide for alternative fuel infrastructure like charging stations. We've already installed EV charging stations at both city facilities and in our public parking facilities. And the electric vehicles that are currently used within our fleet are actually powered by a solar array at fleet. So they're powered by the sun.
Nancy, this is Ben. Moving the entirety of the fleet towards green, making the entire fleet green. Do we have a goal for that?
We do not currently have a specific goal for moving the fleet forward.
Okay.
There's not we don't have a specific goal that says we're going to do 20% or 50% along those lines. We continue to make those improvements on an annual basis, but there's not a specific goal. And please keep in mind that not all vehicles and equipment can be moved to a hybrid technology, because that's not available for all types of vehicles.
Mm-hmm. So is our current stance just kind of as possible move vehicles to green?
Yeah, we do have a clear point metric. It's not on the tip of my head right now. So we have goals that we're trying to accomplish, but it's within our clear point metrics that we are trying to achieve additional advancements in the fleet.
What do you see? Do you see other cities setting metrics for, I know I'm harping on a green fleet and that's just one component, but do you see other cities having goal-oriented metrics for the percent of fleet green by certain dates?
We do, and I have a slide for that a little bit later in the presentation. I'll get there very shortly, I promise. In terms of our tree canopy, trees are a very important part of our carbon footprint. They lower the heat island impacts, reducing the ambient temperature in the urban core, and that also reduces energy use for cooling. So they also take up carbon dioxide. Our tree canopy has increased 5% in the last 8-year time frame, and we're currently updating our ordinance to enhance protection of the canopy, as you're all well aware. Annually, our existing tree canopy takes up about 7 kilotons of carbon. Well, what does that mean? That's equivalent to the emissions from about 1,500 households. So as we maintain our canopy, we're able to reduce our carbon footprint through the use of those trees. And in the last 7 years, we have either planted or given away 20,000 trees in our city. And if we continue this trend, we will install an additional 30,000 trees by the year 2030. Our strategic plan is also very oriented toward dealing with a reduction in our carbon footprint. There's a number of objectives that are shown there related to both renewable energy, planning activities, and our own daily operations that would support reducing our carbon footprint. Some of the strongest measures that we see are in the comprehensive plan. We have evaluation measures that choose to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from our own operations by 80% by 2050. So that gives us 30 years to get 80%. We've just done 20% in 10 years. So that's a
I'll have to take your word for it when it comes by.
It's a very aggressive goal, but it is a goal that is supported by the science of trying to get back to that 350 parts per million. Additionally, in the comprehensive plan, to source 20% of our electricity from renewable energy by 2030. So that's a 10-year goal, again, more aggressive. And then as Commissioner Sorensen suggested, we want to reduce city vehicle fossil fuel use an additional 20% below our 2015 levels by the year 2025. And that would require that we either make our fleet smaller or that we get much more fuel efficient vehicles as we do our annual replacement each year. There's also a number of policies that are listed in the comprehensive plan's climate change element that are related to mixed use policies, related to land use to reduce vehicle miles traveled, to ensure that we have lots of options for transportation that don't necessarily include vehicles, and also think about our greenhouse gas emissions when we make decisions. Our next steps are to invest in renewable energy and continue our energy efficiency retrofit, as well as making sure that as we build new facilities that we're implementing the most energy efficient technology. There are a number of policies out there that could be considered by the commission that are related to being a carbon neutral city, to be ready for 100 pledge. 8 Florida cities have signed onto that. And Broward County has developed a pledge for their fleet to be a zero emissions fleet by 2030. And part of what they're trying to do is move to a significant number of electric vehicles in their fleet. From a regulatory standpoint, both Miami Beach and City of Miami have adopted ordinances that require cool roofs and cool hardscapes. Think of a cool hardscape as having a much lighter colored surface than black asphalt. They've also created green building requirements and reporting requirements for larger buildings so that they maintain an awareness of their own electrical use. That's through energy benchmarking. Orlando has done that, and Miami-Dade is currently proposing it. A number of our local municipalities have solar-ready ordinances, which require that when you put in a new building, that the parking lot must have conduit in it so that you can put in an EV charging station as a future retrofit. And that's also true for solar-ready, for new homes to have the right kind of electrical and conduit installed so that you can readily put on rooftop solar should the new homeowner be interested in doing that. So it doesn't require them to have solar on the house. It requires them to make sure that the house is built so that solar can be added in the future. And that's all in their local ordinances. In conclusion, we have a lot of opportunities and have made a lot of progress toward reducing our carbon footprint. But in order to achieve that 80% by the year 2050, there's a lot more work that we need to do. We need to adopt scientifically based long-term greenhouse gas reduction goals and really commit to those goals. Additional regulations to support community emissions reductions. We need to carefully consider funding the incremental costs of building greener facilities. That upfront cost pays for itself in reduced operations and maintenance costs moving forward. And we already know that as a community, we have to invest in reducing our emissions because sea level rise is a very real thing for the city of Fort Lauderdale, and reducing emissions is essential to lessening climate change impacts moving forward. All in all, we really need to have an organizational dedication to this mission if we are to achieve the kinds of aggressive goals that we've seen in our comprehensive plan.
Great, thank you. Just a quick question before I open it up to the floor to the rest of the commission. Do we have specific requirements for new construction with regard to requiring them to work towards some of the goals that we ourselves impose on ourselves, or is this just a voluntary thing when they say, oh, they're LEED certified or they are platinum LEED certified or whatever? Is that just a voluntary thing, or do we require this with new construction?
Currently, that's a voluntary activity. There are ordinance examples in other communities where they require certain buildings above a certain footprint to meet a minimum green building certification requirement. But we do not have one here.
Do not have that program. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any questions from the commission?
Yeah. Nancy, thank you. This is great. This is what I was really hoping to kind of get a sense of. So a couple of things. Could you go back to some of the policy recommendations where you had the carbon neutral pledge and the ready for 100 slide, if you don't mind? Are we able to pull that back up? Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Oops.
And Nancy, do we have this online somewhere, this presentation, like on a city website we can direct folks towards?
It is attached as Exhibit 2 to this commission item.
Okay. Chris, can we get that like put on?
We can, yeah, we can be prominent with it. Yeah, we'll we'll get it on the greening our routine section of the website.
Plug it. Yeah, thank you. And then if you can just blast that email out to us, please, just so as a reminder. Cool, thank you. So I'm like Nancy, so I'm very interested, Mayor, I'm really interested in just kind of, we don't have to go through this now, but I'm just very interested, you know, what does it mean to be, what is a Ready for 100 pledge as an example? Is that something that we could, you know, that would make sense for us to think about signing up for?
So we can certainly look at what these various pledges provide for. Some of them are a little more aspirational and some of them are more practical. And we can take a look at which ones might be something that we can propose to the commission as a policy decision moving forward.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then can you go to the next slide, which is the, I think it's maybe the regulatory. Yeah, and Mayor, this goes to kind of what you were speaking about. But I think it'd be really worthwhile for us to say, okay, what are some of the best practices that Miami Beach is doing, City of Miami is doing around, you know, cool roofs, hardscapes, and maybe kind of have a discussion around that. Mayor, does something like that make sense?
Well, I mean, right now is the time to have that discussion. I think that, you know, Dr. Gassman has presented some interesting, I mean, it's obviously, you know, we're all aware that I think it was yesterday or today that that the U.S. involvement in the Paris Peace Accord has now completely terminated, and while the federal government doesn't recognize its imperative to try to participate in actions that will help reduce our country's carbon footprint, clearly local municipalities like our own can participate. In fact, as mayor, I signed on to the Paris Peace Accord as there was a mayor's group that was doing it. And I did that, oh God, a couple of years ago. And so, you know, we're on record as wanting to be part of the discussion and part of the challenge. But I do think that we can ask staff to come up with appropriate ordinances going forward to see how we could try to incorporate some of these green activities in our building code. Now, of course, we're going to get some pushback by some to say that it's going to add to the cost of building. But a lot of these new construction projects are already doing it. If you look at, you know, in fact, it's a badge of honor in some cases for them to be able to stick that, you know, that brass plaque on the side of their building to say it's going to be a you know, a LEED certified or a platinum LEED certified. There's even another, I think there's another designation that I've heard of more recently that's like super LEED. So the point is that I think it merits further thought and implementation. And is that a consensus from the commission? Does anyone else have any thoughts on this? Is this something that this commission would like to push forward and ask staff to come up with recommendations, in particular, how we would require them to be incorporated in our building code going forward? Commissioner Moritas, do you have any thoughts on that?
I do have thoughts. I'd like to see the ideas, but I maybe want to see incentives as opposed to regulations.
Right. Commissioner Vice Mayor?
I'm unmuted. Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so I agree. Incentives are certainly much better than regulation. But and I know you would not be reinventing the wheel because obviously they're out there already. Other cities are already moving forward. So if we can improve our carbon footprint as a city, I think that would be a great step forward as we move forward in this next decade. So if you can come back to us at another meeting with recommendations, I think that would be helpful.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Nancy. Great.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you. That was great. Thank you. Moving on to business 3. This is the Unified Direct Procurement Authority. Chris?
Yeah, Mayor, Commissioners, this was just really calendared as a placeholder after our joint meeting with the county. I know that there was some thought that we wanted to follow up with just the commission in a discussion on what we thought of that design criteria package. Obviously now I've notified you by email. Mr. Cohen and I are looking at scheduling the next UDPA meeting on one of 3 days, which now I think is going to be one of 2 days because of a tremendous conflict with the county, either December 15th or 16th. And then I know you wanted to have a discussion. It started, and maybe that was, we've taken the notes maybe that we needed to, but I know we needed to talk with the commission about the bridge versus the tunnel concept. And while that's not necessarily a UDPA item, it certainly is a FDOT, as you mentioned, Brightline, county and city discussion where there's been some study done, as you know, and just for the rest of the commission's benefit, of what it would look like to have an at-grade crossing, a crossing that they call mid-grade, which I think is about 56.5 feet, that would have a bascule bridge in it, as well as a high crossing at 80 feet, which would be a fixed bridge if that were to go through the city. It's 80 feet because that it matches the height of the all right.
It's the city of Fort Lauderdale calling.
Yes, the city of Fort Lauderdale has notified you with alert FTL, and we all got it at the same time. At 80 feet, which would be a fixed bridge because that matches the height of the lowest power line that goes over the new river. So there would really be no sense to go any higher than that. And then there was the concept of the tunnel proposed. Consistently through the discussion points, this, it has been discussed that this mid-level bridge seems to be the desire of the county. And we've started to see, although a bit underwhelming in its presentation, some attempts at some architectural drawings of what a bridge looks like coming at the west side of that joint government complex. And so while it's not necessarily contingent upon the joint government complex moving forward, the mayor is correct that it would interact with that building if in fact it is built. So this was just an opportunity to hear from any of the commissioners who wanted to follow up in an advertised and notice session on our follow-up from the meeting that we have with the county. And I should be able to, within the next couple of days, probably early next week, notify you all as to what is a good, acceptable time for our commission as well as the county commission to come together for the next UDPA meeting. And Mr. Cohen and I are working on an amended ILA for the UDPA to continue, and that was the takeaway from the last meeting. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll defer to how you want this discussion to go, and maybe we've already had the bulk of it. That's the item.
Okay, Commissioner Moraes, you have any thoughts you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was just wondering what the agenda was going to be for the next meeting. So thank you. That's the amended ILA that we'll probably vote on and discuss.
We need to deal with the amended ILA, and then we need to make some decisions as to how the group collectively would like to move forward. If we're talking about taking now this massing study and moving more to an architectural type design, construction drawing type process, or whether we're going to solicit a private partner, the UDPA needs to have that discussion.
So we will make the decision at our next meeting if we're going to move forward with a solicited P3 or an unsolicited P3. Or...
That would be our preference.
Okay,
obviously, with an amended ILA, at some point we either have to move the project forward or not. And
Chris,
the project moves forward with this. So,
yes, Vice Mayor.
Thanks, Mayor. Chris, well, just to go back to the topic that the mayor brought up earlier, because Commissioner Beam Fur actually did last time say, how do we move forward if we don't know if we're going to be doing this bridge? Can we somehow, have that conversation about what those details are? Can we flesh that out a little bit more?
Are you asking if we want to flesh it out amongst ourselves here? Yes, I think so. I mean, I think that it would be nice to be able to go into the next UDPA meeting with sort of a city position. It would even be fine for me to know that position ahead of time so that I can, from a staff level, start to have that discussion. So,
or just even,
maybe,
yes, and then even have that conversation with the county. I mean, I just want to be able to get a sense of what it is going on behind closed doors that we're not all really privy to in terms of design, in terms of a bridge, in terms of how that would impact the entire campus. Just let us know what's going on.
Let me tell you a little bit more that's going on that kind of took us by surprise. When I say us, I mean me. In one of the discussions one of the meetings we were having with the county and with Brightline, we discovered that the county has been engaging in discussions regarding an east-west rail service going down Broward Boulevard. Have you heard about this? No. So it was brought. It just happened to be mentioned obliquely as Mr. Ziskovich was being asked to give his presentation regarding the Joint Government Center, and he was showing on his design an east-west rail service down Broward Boulevard, which I immediately freaked out about. And I said, "So what are you guys all talking about? You're carving up our city without even talking to us." And so they're looking at that corner there as a transportation hub between an east-west light rail system, a bus system, and a rail system with Brightline and a coastal link. I mean, this is like Port Authority in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And again, now that they've passed that
We have no
charter
say.
amendment,
Yeah.
which we're screwed. Okay, so we really need to decide what our role is here. You know, I refuse to allow another government entity, and I don't think they really mean to do this, but that's the way things are happening now. You know, I don't want another government entity to tell us how we are going to design our city, and because it meets their needs, it may not meet our needs. So, and I know that they're not adversarial in this, but they need to hear from us, as the city manager says, that he needs to go back with some sense of where this commission, what this commission believes in, and so that's why I brought it up earlier and why we're talking about it now, because the reality is that there is an awful lot in terms of transportation discussion that's going to impact what we're doing in our neighborhood there. You know, for example, we want to make sure we preserve the area we call the one-stop shop as an open space. We want to make sure that Brightline has a couple of parcels in and around this area. What are they going to do with it? But ultimately, are we going to see our downtown carved up by a bridge because it suits the counties and FDOT's needs going forward? My feeling is that we cannot afford to be part of this government center and put all of our resources in there if we're finding ourselves at the short end of the stick here with a government center with a bridge that cuts our city in half, and we have no say about anything that's being done. And I think that's we're in a very precarious position right now, and now is the time to talk about those transportation issues while we're talking about the government center, because otherwise we have no other voice in that conversation.
Just want to follow up because, sorry, I wasn't quite done, but I do think it would be a good idea to get a presentation, maybe even at our next conference meeting, if we can, from FDOT or somebody about what the proposed bridge would look like. But what I see happening at that space is that the county is going to build its county government center there, and they're going to link that center to transportation throughout the county. So we have to decide as a city if we want to be a part of that. And maybe we don't. Maybe we want to be right here and do a P3 and have it built in 2 years with a park across the street.
That's an option.
So maybe we
That's an
take that
option.
path. But I do like what I've seen with the Joint Government Center, but I think it's going to be tied up. I think it's going to take longer than 4 years because I think they're coming up with a master plan. Remember, they asked us for our master plan too about transportation. Remember, we have no say what happens in terms of county road and county.
Well, if we took it in an
County.
isolated conversation, you're right. But we do have a say because we are partners now in this government center, and
Yeah.
we have a right
Right.
to leverage that discussion and use it and include that transportation component of it, because it's all part and parcel of the same thing.
I still don't think we have a say. I don't think we have a vote. I don't think we have a say. I don't think we have anything in terms of what the county does in terms of bridges and trains and rail in the city, just because it's our city. So that's my take. But does that matter? Does that preclude us from moving forward with this joint government center? I don't know. It's a
So
conversation.
maybe what I'd offer, and I'm reading it right now, and can either get it out to the commission or could ask for a presentation maybe at our next conference meeting. There was a PD&E study done on a new river crossing and the feasibility of that for FDOT. So it wasn't done for us, wasn't done for the county, but was done for FDOT. It articulates the 3 different bridge and the 1 tunnel option. And maybe through our transportation and mobility group, we could request that we add this to our next conference agenda and have them come present to us the high level findings of this PD&E study that they did for FDOT.
Yeah, but Chris, it's not rocket science.
It's not.
It's just a bridge through the middle of the city.
Correct.
And it's going to cut us in half, and it's ugly, and there's nothing attractive about it. Not that we had specific renderings of an actual bridge, but you go anywhere in Florida and look for a bridge that's built by FDOT, and it's not particularly, architecturally appealing. It's just a bridge, and they may paint the underside of it green or pink or blue or whatever, but it's still a bridge, and I feel that we are at a point, if they seriously want to consider us a partner and a fair partner and an equal partner when we're talking about the government center, they need to respect our feelings with regard to a bridge coming into our city. And I think that this is the perfect time to bring it up, because if we don't now, we will end up waiving our rights to further participate in the transportation decisions that are being made downtown.
What's the suggested funding mechanisms for the proposed bridge?
The funding mechanisms are the county's 1 cent sales tax, FDOT, and Brightline.
Okay, 3 of them contributing.
Right.
Okay.
So far, we haven't been asked to participate, I don't think. We don't have any money anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so one of the questions I would have is what about federal transportation funds?
Well, federal transportation funds can certainly be tapped into, and I'm sure they will be, but they're also available for something other than a bridge.
Well, that's what I'm saying about a tunnel. Yeah, we could.
Mr. Bloom and I went up to Washington 2 years ago. We met with transportation officials, and they specifically indicated that there is money for tunnels. But I don't know if those same people were there today, and I don't know if those same people will be there in January. Yeah. But I do know that there are programs at the federal level, regardless of who administers them, that provide for participation in tunnel projects, and they made that very clear to us.
Yeah. So, Mayor, just a thought here is. So, and I think we're heading that way right now, but I think it'd be helpful to get clarity around what we as a body feel, how we feel about a bridge versus a tunnel. And then I think we should use this as part of our discussion with the county to say, hey, here is what we would like. And as we continue contemplating moving forward with the joint campus, this is what we would like in terms of a bridge or a tunnel to be part of this plan. Because I think we do have some leverage here. And I think we do. I think the county is going to be willing to listen, but I think we have leverage too.
I thank you, because that's exactly my feeling as well.
Yeah. So I would like to explore a bridge. That's my feeling.
Like what?
Sorry.
What did you just say?
I just said, for me, I would like to explore a tunnel option. Like, I would like us to tell the county, I would like to explore a tunnel. I don't know what everyone else feels, but I think we should figure that out now and then use that as a discussion.
So, Chris.
So I think rather than, maybe what I'll start by doing is just getting a commission memorandum out with this study that they did for FDOT. It's easy to read. It's explanatory. It talks about costs. It talks about timing. It talks about the different options, the 2 low-level bascule crossings with the 1 fixed crossing, as well as a tunnel crossing. So I'll just get that out in the form of a commission memo, let you digest it. And then as we talk again individually, I'll make a call as to whether or not we need to bring it back to another joint meeting to formulate a position, or another public meeting, in advance of the next UDPA.
Chris.
Sir.
You say you have information in front of you, right, with the 2 options?
I pulled up the study that was done for FDOT, yes.
Is there cost associated with option 1 and option B?
I can go to the cost
There are
table.
costs associated with each bridge and their estimate on a tunnel. Their
Yes.
cost estimate. But I think that their cost estimate.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm not finished with Chris, and it was my question. So can you share that cost with me?
I can tell you that in this report I'll send you, there's four alternates. 4 alternates. 3 of them are bridges, one at 21 feet, one at 55, one at 80. And then there's a tunnel option. The low-level bascule bridge at 21 feet, total project cost just north of 134 million. Mid-level bascule bridge at 55 feet, 444 million. High-level fixed bridge at 80 feet, 478 million. And they've got a tunnel alternative at 3.33 billion.
How many billion?
3.334.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any further questions of the city manager? All right. Thank you. Moving on to CF1. This is concerning an emergency purchase for repairs associated with a sewer force main break in the Rio Vista neighborhood. Do you want to vote on this?
No, I don't need a vote on this. This is just the notice that I have to provide you of emergency purchases after they're made, so that the commission is aware. You're aware of these projects. These are the projects that happened in Rio Vista, as well as the park and the canal. And so these are expenses that have already been paid. I just need to notify you that we did purchase them on an emergency basis and not through a competitive process.
Okay. Any questions with regard to this? Okay. Is there any further business? Do you have a separate?
I have 2 items. 2 items, Mr. Mayor. One, I'm just trying to do the right thing and solve for you all and the different perspectives that I'm getting. And I can't find a consensus spot on what to do with the commission office spaces. There's a bunch of different thoughts out there as to how the commission's office space could be rebuilt or renovated. I sent something suggesting I was willing to look at creating a couple of additional suites on the 7th floor in City Hall, and take some existing staff that exist on the 7th floor, move them to the 101 building. Certainly still willing to renovate the 8th floor to accommodate the floor plan that we brought forward once before. I think it would cost more than we currently have allocated in the budget, but we mentioned that the night that that was approved. And I'm just looking for the commissions, and unfortunately I've got to do it now sort of with everybody together, because I'm not able to really draw any consensus as I talk to commissioners individually. So I'd love to just spend a couple minutes figuring out what you all want so I can make it happen.
So this discussion began pre-COVID.
Correct.
Okay. And now when I come up to the city commission offices, I don't see anyone there. Okay. So I think that the needs have changed. So I personally, I don't see any need to make any changes. I don't want to spend the money. I don't know who's coming back. So maybe every commissioner should indicate, what their expectations are for returning to City Hall before we start spending money to rearrange offices. I just see a lot of empty spaces upstairs. So Commissioner Moritas, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I guess when I look at the space we currently have, I really don't think we need to spend money redoing it either, but we probably need to define who is in what space. Meaning, I hate to kind of go through this all publicly, but we have the mayor's office, we have District 1, District 2, District 2 aide. Then we have Ben, and then we have an open office. So we probably need to decide what happens in that open office. Maybe Ben's aide goes into the open office, and then my staff who's in my space right now, just so she could have a little bit more distance with, the COVID stuff. Maybe my staff goes where maybe Ben's staff was, and they're next to each other and everybody has space. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Well, let's all right. So
That's one option that I'm happy to come up with without building anything.
all right. So Vice Mayor, what are your needs? You have yourself and you have Pratima. Does your other aide ever come up to the office anymore, or she work remotely?
Yes, a lot. They're both there regularly.
Okay.
She has a space though.
So your needs have remained constant then?
Right, and I personally, well, I was opposed to the motion that did pass to spend the money. I was never in favor of that. I'm still not at this point in time. I don't think it's necessary. I thought though that Commissioner Moritas moved over to the space next to Commissioner Sorensen. That's not true anymore?
I was sitting there temporarily, and then I did vacate. We just need to know who's going to be in that space permanently. I don't have to stay there. It can be if Commissioner Sorensen prefers his staff being next to him. I know he's a little maybe had some other concerns maybe.
Right.
I have to
Go ahead, I'm
determine who.
sorry.
But
Right,
let's figure out who goes in that space.
so Ben, tell me, I know Juan is there. Do you have another aide that comes there on a regular basis?
Alex doesn't come into City Hall right now.
She's not. Okay. So
And my needs are, I mean, I guess my main need is a place has some degree of privacy, some degree of we're not when I'm in my office, I can hear everything that happens in the right across, right in the wall across, which is Commissioner Glassman's aide. So we've got to have some kind of, for sunshine law and so forth, have some kind of reasonable privacy.
So what would you ask then if you had the ability to ask for something? What would be your ask?
So, well, I mean, I'm open to Commissioner Moritas's idea. I mean, so I'm just trying.
So maybe you're next to the conference room because that's a little bit more soundproof. You don't really hear people. So maybe you're next to the conference. I don't hear anyone in the mayor's office because that must have some soundproofing. So I don't hear you.
Talk softly.
You talk softly. I don't know. Maybe that office is a little bit more quiet, or you can have that office because it's more
Do you have
quiet.
an objection to going into that office, Ben?
Me being in which office?
That would be former where the former office of Commissioner McKenzie, because he moved his suite downstairs. So that office space would be available. Would you be interested in that? Was that far enough away from other?
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be open to that. So I could be in that office, and then I can move one of my aides into my current office. Is that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Put one there, and then my two aides can move out next to each other in the common space.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could work. Yep.
Can we add that soundproofing though? That shouldn't it still be soundproof though for future issues?
I think it should be, Vice Mayor. I don't know. Chris is sound, just some degree of buffering or is that possible in the walls or?
Folks, and see if there's a way that we can do anything between the walls so that we can, deaden some sound between sheetrock. I don't know, but we can take a look. If it's really as simple as leaving the 8th floor configured as it's configured and just trying to work out soundproofing, that's a lot easier of an ask than I've been trying to draw from everybody who needed what and where. So
right.
I think we could be good with that for now. It seems that the only noise is coming from the vice mayor's office.
Very loud.
We're always we have a lot of parties. I really think though that Chris, you need to stay in City Hall. You mentioned about moving over to the other building. I think the city manager should stay in City Hall.
Well, this scenario would keep him on
Good.
the 7th floor.
Yeah, the only reason I offered to move our staff is because we have 2 floors in City Hall that we can control with the access is by elevator, and that's 7 and 8. So I really am only comfortable with the commissioners being on 7 or 8.
Okay.
I would ask that we do this maybe within the next month, if that's possible, so we can all get situated. I'm a little
Before our
displaced.
term begins up again in January.
Yeah, I would just like to move in wherever I am. I'm in boxes and things like that.
So there's also the option of having a remote office. Does anyone have any interest in having a remote office?
Dining room table.
What's that?
Yeah, man, that's what I've been
My
doing. Chris, there was mold in that office that we're talking about that Heather.
Just on the 4th It was just on the surface from a water leak. We pulled up carpet and we looked at pulled up sheetrock, and it wasn't on the backside. So an easy repair. It was
It's been
simply to
remediated.
Yeah,
cut a piece of sheetrock out, replace it, paint it, and
You're comfortable that's all gone and
we're not used to dealing with in this building.
yeah. So you're comfortable it's all gone and mitigated.
All right.
Commissioner Sorensen, if you start coughing, just let us know.
I will. I'll call you over to come help me if I'm coughing.
Thank you.
What?
All right. Commissioner McKenzie, you're okay on the 7th floor the way you are? You have to unmute yourself. I guess he is. Okay. So,
What? Just so how about what's the status of our conference room on the 8th floor? Like, are people going to be using that, or what? Vice Mayor?
Which conference room? The little one?
The little one.
Office?
Yeah.
it's just a conference room. Everybody can use it.
Right.
No one's been using it. I mean, I've been putting my office in there. I mean, I've been having virtual meetings and so forth. Is anyone using that? I haven't seen anyone using it.
I think we will. I mean, I think we're a few months away, hopefully, from being normal again.
Yeah, I would like to keep it as a conference room until we really need it.
Me too.
Okay, so then, Chris,
You can still meet people there.
So I'm going to explore soundproof options with our park staff, our facility staff. If I can get that nailed down, we'll start there. And that's actually, if that's as easy of an outcome as we could have had to the question I asked him.
You see, what's your second issue?
The second is just to let you all know that I'm going to head to Atlanta early tomorrow morning. So I'll be gone tomorrow, returning Saturday afternoon. So in and out with a couple of flights. So if you don't get me tomorrow or Saturday, Greg Chevalier will be in the role of
Well,
who to call.
assuming you don't get hit by any storms.
Right. No. So we'll watch that weather, and if we have to modify, I certainly have a lot of flexibility. Just running up for a retirement celebration for somebody that I used to work with. So,
all right,
just overnight. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right. Anything else from the rest of the commission? All right. There being none, the conference meeting is now concluded. Let us now move into the CRA meeting, if we could. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Moritas?
Here.
Vice Chair Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Here.
Chair Trentels?
Here. So the city of Fort Lauderdale is hosting its commission meetings in both a virtual and in-person format. Public will be able to listen to and view commission meetings at www.fortlauderdale.gov/FLTV or on www.youtube.com/City of Fort Lauderdale, all spelled out, as well as on Comcast Channel 78 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. To speak on an agenda item, please click on the link that I'm about to tell you. It's bit, that's B as in boy, it.ly/virtual CC meetings. So to help ensure the same decorum as our in-person meetings, we ask that you please abide by the following guidelines. 1, please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits the meeting in any way. 2, while you're on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the meeting broadcast on FLTV, YouTube, Comcast, or AT&T if you're watching simultaneously to avoid the delays with the broadcast. I will call on you when it is your turn to speak and also notify you when your time has expired. City staff has automatically added speakers in the to listen only mode, and you will be unmuted to speak when recognized. Lastly, once you have completed speaking, you will be muted and may either hang up to exit the meeting or stay connected to listen to the remainder of the meeting. So if we turn to the CRA agenda, we have M1, motion to approve minutes for October 20th, 2020. Would someone like to move the item?
Moved.
hear a second?
Second.
Move the second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
I don't see him on his screen, so he's not
Okay.
there.
and Chair Trentals.
Yes, the motion is approved. R1, we have a couple people who want to speak. I assume it's just for questions. Resolution approving the First Amendment to the Development Incentive Program Loan Agreement with Northwest Sixth Investments, LLC, and authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions. Dan Landis, Tatum, McClinton, Martin, excuse me, that's on CR, that's on R2. Just Dan Landis, and you're just here, Mr. Landis, to respond to any questions because you're here on behalf of the applicant. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, there being none. Would I hear someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency approving a First Amendment to the development agreement in favor of Northwest Sixth Investments LLC, a Florida limited liability company, authorizing the executive director to execute the First Amendment and any and all related documents or instruments, delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Moritas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie, not present, and Chair Trentals.
Yes, and just so that there's some clarification, Chris, are you the executive director? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. R2, a resolution authorizing the disposition of property at 1559 Sistrunk Boulevard and approving a $125,000 commercial facade program loan and a $225,000 property and business program loan to 1551 Sistrunk LLC for the B&D Trap Restaurant located at that address, and authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions. I have two people who signed up. I suspect that they are part of the applicant. That's Alba Hernandez and Tatum McClinton Martin. Do either of you want to make a presentation, or are you just here to answer questions? Alba, Tatum?
Good afternoon. We're here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? Okay, there being none. Someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Agency accepting the offer of $100,000 from 1551 Sistrunk LLC for the purchase of property located at 1559 Sistrunk Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale, and more particularly described below, approving a forgivable loan of $225,000 under the property and business improvement program and $125,000 under the commercial facade program, approving both agreements, the commercial contract and addendum, authorizing the executive director to execute the commercial contract, addendum, agreements, and other documents and instruments, and further delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions and to make such determinations which further the goals and objectives of Northwest Progresso Flagler Heights Community Redevelopment Plan and providing for an effective date.
Yes.
Sorensen? Commissioner Moritas?
Yes.
Vice Chair
Yes.
Glassman? Commissioner McKenzie? Not
Absent.
present. And Chair Trentals.
Yes, and that resolution is approved. Is there any further business of the CRA?
There is not.
There being none, the meeting is concluded, and we will come back at 6 o'clock for.
The recording has stopped.